are going to pay that price for him. So, for a while, I really thought he was going to your Dallas Cowboys.
Man, I did too. You know what I
mean? With us.
I even screen grabbed quite a few images of him in Dallas. And then even Jerry was like last year on the local radio show he does once a week doing his hit, talking about Odell with a star on his helmet. And I'm like, all right, Jerry, like now you're talking my talk. Just why then? And then where did that go? They did a bunch of meetings. But I love what you said there about him not being a wide receiver one. That is the expectation. And when did he do the best? When he wasn't. Cooper Kupp was the wide receiver one in Los Angeles when they went to the Super Bowl, and Odell was there getting it done. A very interesting here from Sports and Metal. Odell is a wide receiver 3 with Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Devonta Smith. I mean, Philly, come on. They made it this far this year.
Yeah. I can't stomach that. I think that
as a Giants fan, I totally understand.
Yeah, that's selfish. Like Philly doesn't need him. All right. I think it's interesting. I don't know though. OBJ and Philly just doesn't seem like the perfect fit. I think that Lamar is an interesting piece to follow. Maybe OBJ, follows that. I think the Saints are now off the table, considering the moves that they have made. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting what OBJ does, but he is taking his sweet time figuring that out. So, my gut kind of tells me he ends up back in the NFC East. Maybe it's on a different team, but
you're right. He does love New York. It's a perfect fit for him. He loves it. We're going to continue this conversation. We got a Derrick Henry question, a couple other questions. Yeah. We will continue all that, but our guest is going to be joining us a little bit early. So before we get to our guest, and remind you, when we get back with the guest, we will be talking about the Masters. Stephie Smalls is going to reveal her picks, and I want to see how different they are from our guest, Brad Thomas. You can follow at Mr. Brad Thomas, and you can watch the Masters and join us for Bettorcast tomorrow morning, starting at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Play the only live sports question and answer game where you can watch the Masters, chat with golf fans, predict what will happen, and compete to win an authentic Masters mini gnome. Only on the Bettor Sports Network app. Moose and Keith can be found on bettorsports.com and on the Bettor Sports Network YouTube page, plus Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. We will be right back right here. Steph Smalls, Lisa Ann, Bettor Sports Live on the Bettor Sports Network.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glover, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr. And I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, oh, yeah, he's got it, a guy I trust. I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garafolo. So I went with it, got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, you sure about that? I go, oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave. Because, like, accuracy to me is really important.
Yeah.
So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I'm hunched over. And I just, like, literally people are passing me. Bob, what's wrong? And it was Polamalu. And Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, oh, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? Like, what was the subsequent tweet
afterwards? Well, I think I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garafalo's name on there. I had to
10 years later, you can out him. I like that, yeah.
You know, he wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories. So.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that. I was like, oh, crap. There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Bettor Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
Like, how bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. Like, they were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play obviously it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either, like, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him. So I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that, he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player. So he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft. So he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this. He hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle. So maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks there to come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Bettor Sports Network.
And we are back with you right here, Lisa and Steph Smalls on Bettor Sports Live, the duo made in heaven, joined by a friend that Steph was so kind to introduce me to at FSGA in Las Vegas. That's Brad Thomas. He's a betting analyst for NBC Sports Edge, who you are going to want to follow at Mr. Brad Thomas. Brad, the Masters are in front of us. How excited are you?
Oh my goodness. It honestly feels like kind of like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, because as the Masters inches closer, I just get more and more excited. I start buying extra shirts. I look up different recipes, think about what parties I'm going to have or go to. And now finally I can go to sleep tonight and wake up to the Masters. A huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
So we had a couple asks earlier in the show, but I wanted to wait till you were here. So I'm going to go Steph first and see Steph's big plays for this. Now, look, the Masters really turn upside down when Mother Nature decides. I am going to be on the greens as well. I am going to qualify. You will see me there every day. So, Steph, who do you got? Who do you really like in this Masters?
Yeah, so how I approach this, Brad, also so excited to have you on. You are fantastic. If you guys are not following him, please go do that because he is awesome. I decided not to touch my outright card too heavily. I had one click this week. The rest are futures. I do like myself Xander Schauffele. I didn't see that Saturday outfit until after I used my bonus, bonus on him. So I don't love that. For me, I do have a Scheffler future 12-1, nothing beautiful. Homa 120-1 I got. June 16th at 1:24 a.m., very much after a bar night, I am sure. I also use a free bet on DJ. I understand the live guys are a little bit, we're not super happy about them, but I wouldn't write them off either. And then I do have I'm a sucker for Spieth, but I'm interested to hear what you like, Brad.
Yeah, so this year is probably the lowest amount of outrights that I've had. I just think that I normally get so excited. I just load up my card. I have 45 bets. I think last year I probably had like 15 outrights. And the one that I took first was Scotty Scheffler at 18-1. So this year, I think I have a total of 6 or 7. The one that I like, or the one that I'm most proud of, is my Brooks Koepka 60-1. And it's more the price. So before I went to
Did we lose you there? Brad? We have a moment. Oh, Brad.
What happened? Yeah.
Frozen in time right there.
PGA came in and was like, no live bets. No live bets on this show.
Before we get him back, I will say this. I think the live players are going to do really well. They went through so much of the thought of them not being able to play in these tournaments. They're excited to get back over here and feel the energy of the crowd that they don't have. It's a comfort. It's going to be like a homecoming for a lot of these live players. All right, Brad, you're back in time. Here we are.
Thank goodness.
Right where you left off.
I was getting worried too. My favorite people probably kept continuing wondering where I went. But yeah, I went to go see Brooks Koepka at Live Orlando. That's my home course at Orange County National. And all I need to see were 3 shots, really. I was like, if he just goes out there, he hits his ball in the middle of the fairway, he looks like he's not laboring at all, and he looks like he's in control of his game, I'm going to bet him. His price now is about 30-1. So I'm super stoked about that. Even if he doesn't win, knowing that I got that kind of closing line value on a guy who's a multiple major winner. It just makes me really excited. Another one that I'm excited about, not as nice of a number as Smalls. I have Max Homa. I have him at 25. Listen, maybe 2 weeks, I've been doing a Masters trend series on TikTok, and he doesn't fit like 90% of the trends I put out. But Max Homa is the kind of guy who made such a change from how he plays golf 2 and 3 years ago to the golfer that he is now. Like, we think about so much that's happened in his life in 1 year. He became a multiple winner on the PGA Tour. He had a child. Man, why would I not bet on this guy? He's a better ball striker than he was before. And one of the trends that he doesn't hit is literally by 8 places, where all 10 of the last 10 Masters winners have a top 40 in Masters history, and Max Homa has 0. I don't care. He was top 48, was good enough for me. And then, of course, I talked about this on NBC Sports a little bit. I just made sure that I parlayed the 2 big dogs as much as I could. I have a little action on Scotty Scheffler. He's the best golfer in the world, gaining the most strokes per round, and he's done it before. He has the ability to put his name up there with 3 Hall of Famers. Only 3 golfers have won back-to-back green jackets. That's Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, and Tiger Woods. To have his name in that company, I think he's one of the greatest people to do it, because he's such a good guy. Like, when you watch him, I have a great story of Scotty Scheffler. I try to tell a story too much, but when I saw it, I have to tell everyone. I'm at TPC. He was the first person I saw, said what's up to him, and he just went about his business. You know, these players have these practice rounds that take literally forever because they're working on all this different stuff. He comes into the media center. He does his press conference. And as he's finishing his press conference, the Make-A-Wish Foundation kids were there. It wasn't planned for them to meet Scotty Scheffler. They were just there trying to get kids excited about the media industry, introducing them to different people. Scotty stayed after I got there, must have been 7 a.m. From 7 a.m., he was there practicing, hitting golf balls. He probably had lunch, came into the media center. He stayed, took pictures, and signed autographs with not only every single kid there, but all their parents and family. I was like, you guys know how athletes are. And this is not a knock on athletes because they have jobs to do. Not every athlete's going to stop and spend another hour after they've been there since 7 a.m. It's probably like 6:30 p.m. And he's such a good guy. And I'll wrap this one up with John Rahm. If John Rahm didn't get sick at API, we'd probably be talking about him probably close to 5-1, maybe 6-1. So I got him. I think I have him at 14. I have 19. I have him 19-1. So even if those don't come through, I'm still going to have a ton of fun. And I think that I got pretty good value.
I love it. Again, give him a follow at Mr. Brad Thomas. That's a great story. And you're right. The routine that these players are in, he could have easily been like, no, I have to eat at this exact time and I have to do this. Now, there are some changes to the greens for the first time in a long time at Augusta. Steph, tell me how you feel this is going to affect players, if anything. We know they can hit it long. That's not the problem. But it's just breaking them out of the norm of the exact what they knew it was before.
Yeah, I think I'm approaching this Masters probably a little bit different than I have in the past, where I'm like, I know the weather, I know the changes, I know the course history is very important, but I'm really looking at the form that these guys are in. Like, and the difference with Augusta is this is a course that really forces players to use every single thing in their bag. Like, they need to use all their, like, there's a lot to this course that's very different than some other ones where you can get away with, putting in your model a huge emphasis on this. Like, there's a lot to this, and playing complementary golf is important for a course like this where, Homa, for example, I think he hits, every single one of the areas. You take away course history, and I think people would be a little bit higher on Homa. I think he's a different player than he has been since he's been here. You look at this creativity, good iron play, on and around the greens. I really think that Max Homa is in a great spot here.
Brad, your take right now on the fact that we don't expect Tiger to go very far. We really want to make the cut. It's always more exciting when Woods is out there. Seeing Tiger after that accident, I think we're all just thrilled, to see him out there doing what he loves. How far do you think he can go? And I think of all the players in this tournament, in the Masters, the weather impact would affect Tiger Woods the most. Do you agree with that, Brad?
I absolutely agree. So the 2019 Masters was probably the best moment of my life. I wouldn't be a golfer if it weren't for Tiger Woods. I probably wouldn't be in this job if it weren't for Tiger Woods. And for him to have that miraculous comeback and win the Masters was probably the highlight of my sports life. Even then, even though there was a little part of me that said Tiger Woods could do it, I feel like I was doubting him. And then he proved me wrong. Then he went out and played Genesis this year, and I doubted him. I was like, there's no way he's playing 4 rounds. The course is not overly hilly like Augusta is, but he shot a 67 after playing an entire 18, battling. I just think he's just one of the strongest golfers mentally. He knows how to use this course to his advantage. I think Tiger Woods, if he makes top 20, will be a massive win for him, but I'm not counting him out. Like, people who doubt guys, great athletes, great people like Tiger Woods always end up getting the short end of the stick because these guys always overcome adversity. That's what he's done his whole life. So I like Tiger Woods this week to finish top 20. I'm not going to personally bet it because I'm going to have so much joy that if or when that happens, it'll feel like I made a ton of money.
And Steph, your opinion on Tiger out there for the Masters?
Yes. And for those that do watch my new golf show, Match Play, I did mention feeling like a bad person, that I was like, oh, is there a little bit of value there on the miscut? There really isn't. I think that the way to play Tiger is probably to go a top 40, top 30. I will be there on Friday. I am so excited to see Tiger Woods play some golf. So I'm in on Tiger. You're not going to probably get me to the top 20 feelings like everyone else. I know my co-host Spencer Aguiar is actually in on him around that area. Top 30, top 40, yeah, you could talk to me there. But I am worried about the weather for people that have injuries and know that, like, Augusta's there's a lot of walking. And if it's cold and rainy, that's where I start to get a little bit nervous about Tiger.
Yeah. And Brad, I watched the Genesis Invitational first 2 days. He looked amazing, right? But you did start to see him slow down on day 3. And that's kind of what brings me to where we are right now. But you feel bad not betting on Tiger Woods. We've got a lot of Zalatoris fans in the chat tonight. No love for Zalatoris this tourney. I mean, he's been one of the greatest stories of young golfers with a mullet like ever.
I feel like maybe 10 minutes before I jumped on the show, I saw one of the Masters breakdowns for Zalatoris. And this is like the only golf course in the world where he actually gains strokes putting. But what terrifies me about Zalatoris is he makes me literally so nervous every time he putts. And he came out and said that he's changing his putting grip for this tournament. That kind of worries me because this being the only place where he really gains a ton of strokes on the putting green, and this is when he wants to change it, I feel like it's kind of in his head. I mean, the price for Zalatoris is really, really nice for anybody who wants to bet him to win, right? Like, if we would have had this price on Zalatoris last year, I think every single person in the golf betting industry would have been on him. But I just don't think now is the time, especially after being sick. He said he lost 7 pounds. He lost 7 pounds from being sick. We saw what happened to John Rahm. He was sick. He was unable to practice, unable to play a lot. Like, that stuff takes effect because, like Steffi said, you have to come in here with good form, and he just doesn't have that.
7 pounds on that skinny guy is a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know where that really came from. So you now know, Brad, that Steph will be at the Masters on Friday. It is a sports bucket list for me, something I've always wanted to do. I wish the weather to be the best. You never know, it can turn. But Brad, where will you be watching the Masters?
Okay, so Thursday and Friday, I'll be watching them in my office. I have television screens dedicated to different things. I do have a couple shows that I'm gonna be taking part in, but listen, the Masters is gonna be on, and if they get mad at me for turning my head and looking and watching the screen because something great's happening, I don't care. And then Saturday, I'm going to a Masters party. One of my old coworkers is throwing a Masters party, so I'm excited. I'm literally, after this, I'm going to the grocery store, getting the supplies to make pimento cheese sandwiches for the party.
Oh my gosh, I love that you're going to be bringing food. This is so cute. Brad Thomas arrives at your potluck and brings you pimento cheese sandwiches. Steph, did you see this coming?
No, it sounds like a dream. I actually also, interestingly enough, and I know we're probably running out of time with you here, my brother texted me today, what is a pimento cheese sandwich? And I'm like, I'm going to be so straight up with you. I'm not entirely sure. I know they're $1.50. I know what pimento is. I recognize that part. What can you tell me what exactly is in a pimento cheese sandwich?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, a pimento cheese is just straight Southern comfort, right? Yeah, every time I eat a pimento cheese sandwich, it reminds me of like my grandma. So it's cheddar cheese. At the Masters, they actually put diced onions, but I don't think anybody who's not a professional chef can dice their onions small enough where you don't notice them. Pimentos, mayonnaise, sugar, salt, and pepper on white bread.
Good thing I'm going to be walking, huh?
Yeah, you're going to have to burn the egg salad sandwich, the barbecue, the chicken salad, the pimento cheese, the beers.
Oh,
okay, you said mayonnaise, cheese, and salt. Like, that just threw me upside down. Steph, please promise us that you will eat one of these on TikTok. Please shoot some content of this because I need to know with the texture, the taste. I have to get through to this.
Apparently, it's like no phones at all, to the point where like they make it seem like you will get tackled. You will be banned for life if you even take your phone out, which is really a good like social experiment for me.
Of course, but could you potentially put the cheese sandwich in like a pocket and then shoot it back at your hotel?
Yeah, you're right. Yep, I'm putting it in my. So
put it in the pocket.
I am going to buy one. I'm going to buy one before I leave. Now I know to bring a big enough bag. I will slip one in, and I am going to make a TikTok for the two of you.
My last suggestion would be just put a half underneath your hat if you have some space in there, and you could like put it there. It would stay warm.
Maybe my poncho.
Yeah.
Is this sandwich to be eaten cold or warm? This is the last sandwich question. We're sorry to be going off on this tangent, but
no, that's totally cool. Like, this is making me so happy. Listen, I'm going on one more tangent here because I have to tell you this. Yes, I'm the kind of guy who loves throwing parties and love having people come over. This is the first year that I'm not having a master's party, that I'm actually going to one. I always cook. And so when people ask me about the sandwiches, it like brings so much joy to me. Yes, they're to be eaten cold.
Okay. They're to be, and what type of bread?
White bread. White Wonder
Straight
bread is what
white bread. Okay. This is going to be interesting. Steph, this is a whole new experience, not just the Masters. But Brad Thomas, we thank you so much for joining us. You can see Brad's work. What are you working right now on for NBC Sports Edge?
Yeah, so we just started a new show called the NBC Sports Soccer Pub. So you can catch that on Thursdays. I'm going to be prepping for that show. It airs tomorrow around 10:45 a.m. Eastern.
Have you always loved soccer, or is this a new sport you're bringing into your sphere?
I didn't start liking soccer till I was in college. My roommate in college literally played soccer all the time. He played it on the televisions, and like, it's like one of those sports that always comes on early. I'm an early riser. I wrestled in college, so I'd have early morning gym sessions, and then I'd come home and it'd be on. But like, I'm too lazy because I just got beat up all day to change a channel, and that's how I ended up loving it. That was the first thing that I started doing at NBC Sports. I was like, only if they knew I love all these other sports too.
So soccer, because so many people want more soccer content. I get asked about it all the time, and it's a very passionate sport. I haven't seen fans that are more passionate. They'll stand outside a bar in the rain and watch it through a window when a bar is full in Europe. So it's a whole next level fandom.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if you need anybody to talk soccer, I'm down to talk it. Like, I literally watch soccer so much to where I just got a new subscription service that gives me the European channels. Because if you want to watch Swedish soccer and you live here in the United States and you don't want to do anything illegal, like illegal streaming, you're not going to be able to do it. Like, there's no capability unless you're paying for this extra service. So I'm a huge soccer fan. Actually, I didn't start playing soccer until I started working at NBC. I joined a league. 6 years later, last week, we won our first indoor soccer championship. So I learned how to, literally had to learn how to kick a ball. I was so bad at soccer, I would score more own goals on the season than score goals. You know, it's been about 7 years, so times have changed, but we finally won our first championship last week.
Hey, Steph, did you know Brad was in a soccer league?
I know, you learn something new every single day. I love it. Now my next trip is going to be to watch you play soccer.
Okay, you're in my brain. You're in my brain. That's what I was saying. I mean, your season is over right now, but we are plotting and planning for two things. We go to the Orlando area.
Yes.
We go to a soccer game or two. We have Brad plan a small party so that Brad can cook and he feels fulfilled and the joy. We have pimento cheese sandwiches.
Yes.
All of this is
speaking my
working out.
language.
I love it.
Thank you so much, everybody. Give him a follow at Mr. Brad Thomas. And we're going to stay right here and continue with all of you right here in the chat. So the weather is definitely an issue. So much concern over the weather. Have you looked up what the exacts are for Thursday and Friday, how bad it looks to be?
Every time I look, I feel like it is changing. It seems like at first, Friday was supposed to be raining all day, then it's pushed to Saturday. It's been a very, very long time since we've had to push to Monday for the, I think like 1980, I don't even know, 1983, 1990, one of those years. So it's been a while since the weather has actually impacted this tournament. The nice thing is with the size of this tournament, they should be able to finagle that apparently is my new word, finagle their way around like pushing it too far back. But I'm very interested to see like how this plays out, which is why I didn't, I know you have to involve it and, the lean is towards some of the better, like bad weather players. But at the same time, I'm like, you really don't know. It's really, you can't predict the rain.
You can't. And also today, example, it just said on the weather app that it was like not sunny out. I walk outside with no umbrella. It's not only not sunny, it's raining, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then, you look for another day and you think it's not going to be nice out. You forget to recheck. It does change quickly. There have been storms that are moving really fast. And I love your finagle word. They can finagle it with the early and the later start times. They will find a way to not have this thing carry over till Monday. There's nothing worse than people going back to work and not being able to make Masters Sunday the day they live for of all of those final holes.
Yeah, and I kind of like it, honestly, for people that do, like, I love chaos, right? So if we can get a little bit of spice here at the Masters, I like a good Sunday sweat. Scotty really like ran away with it last year. So it is nice when we get these very, sweaty Sundays. We don't totally know what's going to happen, but the guys that we want to see and we love are there, which, of course, at the Masters, really the top 30 golfers in the world are the ones that you're going to be wanting to hang your hat on as far as like a betting perspective comes up. But I'm all here for like, give me something a little bit unpredictable.
Yeah, give me something a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're watching it for. And looking at players like Scotty who is on this tear right now.
Yeah.
Do you feel the momentum of that helps or hurts a player? Because golf is very different than football, NBA, MLB.
Yeah. You know what Scotty has that a lot of players do not have, and you see this with some of these other guys that are, within, the upper echelon, is like his composure is something else. Like the fact that he is able to stay even keel. And you look at, he's actually coming in half a stroke better in strokes gained than he did last year. You look at his past performances the last couple of weeks, we're looking at T17, T11, a win, T12, T4, win, 4. He's up there. Like no matter what, you're competing unless you get this total, like what is going on. The one concern I have with him, he has like a little bit of a dip in his putting, but at the same time, Scotty's a player that can just put it on. And you look at last year, he's 14-1, whatever it is. And now you're looking at a guy who's already, down to plus 650 this year. So for good reason too. He is the best player in the world. And I think for a while people have fought that off. But if he goes back to back and, like Brad said, and he joins those very few players, it's very awesome.
He is someone who doesn't let it get the best of him. He really moves on well, walks to that next hole, and like, no matter what has happened before, seems to be erased. And I think he's just heating up, and I do think he has the best odds. I noticed that neither you nor Brad mentioned Rory McIlroy. We have no love for Rory anymore. And what do you think that's affecting his game? Because I've watched Rory over the past couple of tournaments and I'm like, there's times where I feel like he just wants to grab his bag and be done with the day because he lets it get to him.
Yeah, he does. And also, you're starting to see a little bit of aging signs here with Mr. Rory. I think I get concerned with tournaments like this. There is another word apparently of the day is like this nostalgia too. Like I know that everyone really wants to see Rory in a green jacket and he played well at match play. But before that, I mean, he played good, but he's not at Rory's standards or where Rory wants to be. His short game was terrible at the Players. And then after that, you kind of saw it carry on. I've just been avoiding him. It's not that like I'm out on Rory. I've played him a little bit in DFS, but I'm taking a break on Rory. Like I need to see him get a little bit back into, let me see Rory. And I think there's a lot of stress here with the, the live players are playing, and he's taken on a lot of that. Like, he wears the tour on his back.
Yep.
And I think that stress has definitely been impacting him a little bit.
It's the very first time we've ever seen real animosity in golf. Let's face it. This has been a non-drama sport. The most drama this sport saw before live was the weather. And now you have players that have literally smack talked each other and have said, given their opinion both ways, which everyone has a right to give their own opinion. But now they're going to be sharing the greens and competing against each other. And I think it's going to be interesting because, like you said, you like a little chaos. I think the drama can be really good or really distracting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a piece of this too, where, people want to knock the live players because, they're not playing as competitively and this and that, and they're not playing well. They're not in as good a foot. I would almost bet that some of these guys, you look at guys even like, Joaquin Niemann, Harold Varner, these are two players that actually played well last year at the Masters. They're guys that we probably would be betting. We'd be considering Niemann probably for a nice little long shot at this year if he didn't move on. Very young player, very, very talented. We saw him win the Genesis and then move on to live. So I think writing off these players is not necessarily the right move. I think there's probably some value there. Am I taking any of these guys outright outside of like DJ, which I have, used a free bet on? It's not something that I'm spending my own money on, but I think the live players are coming in, and I've seen their interviews. They actually seem like they got pretty well prepped, or maybe that's really the mindset they're in. They're not there. They're there to play golf. They only get 4 chances to be competitive like this. This is it's their time.
Yeah, it's almost like their mini Super Bowl, right? This is a big moment for them to be. And also, they won this little battle of actually being able to put their feet back on those greens. That's a big deal. There could be some spite involved, but also it's recency bias. We haven't been diligently watching them play. We haven't been hearing many interviews. We haven't been seeing them. So it's an out of sight, out of mind. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are some in the top 10 that are blowing the minds of everybody going, oh my gosh, how did this happen? We just wrote them off as if just because they're playing in the live, tournaments now that they're not the same. And it's like, well, these guys still have the same mindset. They probably have more money. They're hiring better trainers. They're doing better things. Everything in their life has changed with more money. And now they get the opportunity to come back here. Many of them have played at Augusta before. So it's going to be a real treat to them. And I think there's going to be momentum there. I think it throws a really exciting mix in all of it.
Yeah. And you look at it too, like I played devil's advocate on my show 2 days ago, where it's like, okay, I could argue now, maybe they're more well rested. Maybe they're coming in their best shape ever because they're not competitive. They're not, they're not playing at these courses like the rest of the PGA Tour is, but they're also coming in to be like, this is our shot to be like, we don't care that you hate us. We don't care what's going on. We're still here to play. And we've rested our bodies and we've done our thing and we've collected our checks, but like they might come in a really good spot.
They come in balling financially. Let's just say that. They come in, 5'3", but when they stand on their wallet, 5'7". They come in with a different money swagger. And at the end of the day, you can't knock anybody for taking generational money that's going to set up families for generations, because that's exactly what they're able to do with that money that they're getting from Live. But for all of you, the tour junkies are where you find all the goodness right here at Bettor Sports Network. It's Masters Week. And the tour junkies are getting you ready for the biggest golf tournament of the year. Join David Barnett and Pat Perry for a preview of the Masters, including breakdowns of the betting odds, course conditions, live golfers in the field, and daily fantasy sports plays for Augusta National. Watch the Ultimate Masters preview show on demand with the Bettor Sports Network app or on the Bettor Sports Network YouTube page. For all of you sharing the love, which I love so much here, love the tour junkies, Bettor Boss says, we're going to continue. Talk a little bit about some changes going on as we are facing the NBA playoffs, Steph. I was at MSG the other night. The energy, as always, off the charts in that arena. We've got the MVP odds that are really starting to shift and shake with Embiid putting up 52 points. Little NBA talk to give us a little palate cleansing from all of the Masters conversation. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Steph Smalls right here on Bettor Sports Live on the Bettor Sports Network.
Moose and Keith, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
Calvin Ridley yesterday, he applied for reinstatement from the National Football League.
Ridley, Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. That is crazy potent on offense.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, Ridley's great.
I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy I want in fantasy this year.
I think you're probably right. I think they're just going to get better and better. First off, Peterson's a wonderful offensive mind, a great head coach, and we've seen that and saw that this year as Jacksonville made it to the postseason. And Trevor Lawrence, anybody that questioned whether or not he could play in the National Football League or just how good he was going to be in the NFL, those questions were answered this past season as in the second half of the year. Statistically speaking, he was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. That's how good Trevor Lawrence is. You throw Calvin Ridley into the mix, he's going to be great. Yeah, I think Lawrence is a guy you want. I think Ridley's a guy you want. Clearly, Travis Etienne is going to be one of those early, first-round selections as well, being the dual-threat running back that he is, not only running, but also catching the ball out of the backfield, Keith, and the ability to take something small and take it to the house. Take a 5-yard dump pass, make a guy miss in the open field, and he's gone. I mean, you saw that with Travis Etienne this past season for Jacksonville. Yeah, sky's the limit. I mean, I think you're going to go from a team in the year span where you wanted no part of the Jacksonville Jaguars when you're looking at fantasy football to where you want as many Jaguars as you possibly can because they're going to be really, really productive. And let's see if they get their tight end back as well, who had
Evan Ingram was great.
And Evan Ingram, who was great this past season.
Yeah. I mean, if they keep that whole core together, their offense is going to be one of the best in football. Like, I legitimately think that they could be one of the best offenses in football.
Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, then
and Ridley,
Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, a good offensive line, and you've got Doug Peterson being creative calling.
Right.
And you look at that division. The Colts are a mess.
Yep.
Titans
look like they're on the downslide.
Titans are on the downslide, right? That window is clearly closed. And then you got the Houston Texans.
Years away from relevancy.
Yeah.
I mean, Jacksonville could win 11 games next year.
Moose and Keith, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
We are back right here. Lisa Ann and my girl, Steph Smalls, could not be happier to be here with you. Thank you so much for being a replacement for Rick Kamler for this week. We love you, Steph. We love all of your work at Champions Round, but I got to say something. This happened during the break. I'm just going to say, do you love blocking people on Twitter as much as I love blocking people on Twitter?
You know what is very funny is what I did on break was block people on Twitter.
So I'm going to just address this, the elephant in the room. I'm going to shout out Tim, who writes, 7 people watching. Why are you even wasting your time? So, of course, one of my New Year's resolutions, Steph, was I'm no longer allowed to troll trolls. And it takes 30 days to form a habit. And then I feel like it takes another 30 to break a habit. So once I made it to March, I'm like, I'm good. But the problem is now I'm blocking like hundreds of people a day because what happens is I have the George moment from Seinfeld where I think of the comeback I want to have. And I don't say it because I want to say it. So I go to Tim's page because it's the only way to block someone. And my comeback, which I won't tweet because I'm no longer trolling trolls, is Tim, you have 1 follower. You have 1 follower and you've been on Twitter since 2021 and you're knocking my boots about the 7 people that were watching when we first went live at exactly 7 p.m. But just for that, now that I've gotten it out and I was able to verbally troll, which is not the same.
Not the same.
Trolling back on Twitter.
It's not the same, but yes, it feels good. And also, Timothy, Tim, whatever your middle name, I'm going to say Timothy Chris. It sounds right. Have you ever heard of streaming? We stream to more than one platform as well. It just means that there's only whatever it is. Listen, sir, I'm not even going to waste my energy. I also had to go to his profile to be able to block him. He is the person that I blocked as well. Timothy, you are not welcome to our party. That is okay.
I call it Twitter Survivor Island because every day you don't know if you're going to wake up and be off my island. I make the decisions here. And I almost feel there's this silent but deadly thing with just blocking them and not saying something back because they still think they're getting away with it until the next day. And I had a guy the other day who set up a new account. And I know it because it says March 2023. Don't get me. You come on all day with the if you're 2023, you're probably getting blocked no matter what. Because obviously you've already been blocked and you're setting up a new account. It's just, why do people do this? Why do people spend their time? Also, YouTube and the way we're streaming now with Bettor Sports Live is so great because you can go back and watch later. And I'll put something on YouTube and I'll be live in my chat. There's 35 of us every Friday night, 8 p.m., with my podcast. But then I'll go back a day later, 1,000 people watched it. Not everybody can be somewhere at 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely not. And the expectation, it's so easy for people to say, here I am behind my keypad.
With your one follower, bro. With your one follower. We had 6 more viewers than you have followers. So so
if there was a competition, I think we won there, Mr. Timothy. But yeah, I think I looked yesterday. I probably have 800 plus people blocked.
Oh, I have a couple million.
My new thing. Oh, I believe it there, Lisa. I'm not quite as big and on that level as you, but I think the number is 827. And guess what? I learned it's actually something you taught. Not even worth my time. Not even bye. And if I see people troll you or I see people
I'm
troll
the same.
Another friend, I just block them because I'm I know you're coming for me at some point.
You know what? I recently started to peel away that layer. And sometimes I'm just trolling, I'm just scrolling and looking at maybe people I followed. And then I see them speaking ill of someone else in the sports world or speaking ill of something. I'm because here's the thing, we're building a community here, just like we're doing with Bettor Sports Network. We're building a community of people who want to be part of the conversation. And we don't want to waste our time feeling the ick or having banter back when we can be responding to so many awesome people. And so let's talk a little NBA because Joel Embiid, poor guy, he's been the bridesmaid. He could almost be a part of 27 Dresses. That was a great movie.
Yes. So good.
Did you save all of your dresses in a weird closet so one day you can do a fashion show for us on TikTok?
Yes. Maybe that's another thing I should do. Now you're just adding to, I need to hire you as my content planner.
Ideas.
Yeah.
So Embiid's been the bridesmaid, never been the bride. He's really, really gunning for it late in this season. Not to say, games played, we're rolling into this, but now we've got kind of a very even. What do you think about him locking it up?
I'm here for it. And you know what? I will admittedly say, after I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, I'm sorry for everyone that just found that out. When Kevin Durant was traded, my interest in the NBA, my heart did break. But Embiid is someone that you said it best. Always the bridesmaid. I did sprinkle a little bit there on him to win probably 2 months ago because I feel like it's coming. He's someone that's just been flirting with it and he deserves it. Give him his flowers. It's time. I hope we get there.
I do too. I mean, he's averaging 33.3 points a game, 10.2 rebounds, 4.2 assists. I mean, he's getting it done. He's a monster. He deserves it. And we need to switch it up, right? And I think it's important for the Sixers since we know even though they're higher in the standings than we expected them to be, they never seem to pull it together and get past the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at this point, it's time for, this is a universal thing across all sports too. It's sometimes it's okay for us to switch it up. It's all right. Let's give the guys that deserve it, the players that deserve it, their flowers. And I think it's about time.
And it's too easy to give it to Giannis year after year after year.
Which he's so lovable. And and he's a fantastic player.
He's so lovable, and his English has gotten so much better since you've been here. Do you remember that video of him taking his entire family to Walmart in a limo when he first came over here?
Yes. Oh my God.
That was it for me. I was like, Giannis fan for life. Giannis fan for life.
Easily. It's so funny. What was that now? Geez, this is when you and I met a couple years ago when, the Bucks and the Nets were dueling it out. And I'm like, it's so annoying because I don't want to root for you, but I love you. So it's hard to not root for him. He's a player it's hard to not root for.
He is a player hard not to root for. The Mavs are really not happy with the fact that they took on Kyrie Irving and they cannot win a game. Like, talk about a bad luck charm. And I love Kyrie. I've got no qualms with him.
Yes.
You miss him. You had, I didn't know you were a Brooklyn Nets fan. It's great to know because we have to go to Barclay. I understand. But for the past 3 years, they have shuffled some of the most magnificent talent in the NBA. It's been heartbreaking with Ben Simmons, right? We want to see him out of the court, but he's got to be well to do it. Then you had Durant, you got Kyrie. Now Kyrie goes to Dallas and they're already thinking about shutting down Luka and Kyrie. When meanwhile, 4 weeks ago, they weren't even thinking about the play-in game. And now they're not even thinking about the play-in game from the other end.
It's crazy. And you know what? And I can at least get a good laugh. Like, 3 of my favorite players ever are James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. So think a little old me, all excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, this is everything that I have ever dreamed of. Like, this is remarkable. I bought jerseys and I actually have a t-shirt that has all 3 of them on it. I have it in 2 colors. And I think, I love Kyrie Irving and you can hate him for whatever you want. And that's fine. No matter what, you cannot argue with the fact that he is a unbelievable basketball player and he doesn't always get the credit that he deserves. But am I shocked? No, because I saw it happen. Although the Nets at the same time, like this team is a little
quirky.
It's thank you. Yes. Very
super.
Sweet. Yes.
Super quirky, but AKA doomed.
Yes. It's just what's the cards that they were dealt. Some of us, we all know that one friend that has a black cloud following them. That is that, right?
Yes.
So I knew that was going to happen. I've warmed up to becoming a Phoenix Suns fan because of KD. But I think that you saw, Harden, I don't think he'll ever be happy where he is. He probably will be on another 3 teams before he retires from the league. But Kyrie, now, we're starting to pick up on trends here. Like, now we can have the discussion where it's like, what's going on? That one didn't hurt as bad as KD did.
Yeah, because you did get a lot of use out of Kyrie and you got a lot of drama, which also created an even bigger cloud because when one player in a team situation goes through stuff, it affects every player. To me, I think about team chemistry and I think about timing. There's such high expectations when a player of Kyrie Irving's ilk moves mid-season. But how do you put somebody back on? Yes, these guys play basketball. I get that. But there's still something to be said for understanding team chemistry and how long it can really take that to build. So that was already working against him, if you ask me. The media is always working against him. That he's going to find his space. I just didn't expect it to be this bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny, like, you see when when Kyrie originally went there, it's like, who's stopping this duo? And now all the lines are, is this the worst duo ever? Like, and I feel like it's a little bit of a deja vu moment because, I mean, the first couple games, they're like, yeah, Luke, this isn't, affecting Luka, not affecting Kyrie. Yeah, because maybe it's a little bit, I don't know, adrenaline. Now they're excited. It's a new thing. Oh, now the dust is settling. Now you get it. Now you understand where, Celtics fans were coming from. Now you get it where Nets fans were coming from. Sometimes these big stars, like, it doesn't always work out. And you look at, the Mavs and the situation that they're in now, and it's, I can't say it's totally shocking either.
But then when you go on the other side and you talk about your boy KD, KD goes, okay? As soon as he gets on the court, what do? They win. And now the Suns are gunning for it. And the odds on the Suns 3 weeks ago were so incredibly different than now. That's why I love that you are constantly looking at the books. And I think a good bettor is constantly looking at the books to see where you can get an edge. You don't wake up on Sunday and place your bets for the Sunday games. You look weeks in advance. You're looking at futures. You're looking at things because the bookmakers are not dumb. They don't want to give money away. So you can't be in that spot. The fact that you made a golf bet after coming home from a bar and got great numbers is everything to me. How often do you look at the books when you are home?
Yeah, it's really important, honestly. And I think, we will talk about the NFL draft at some point, and there is a lot of value in, getting ahead. Futures are one of my favorite markets, one of my favorite things to bet because even the Yukon Huskies, for example, Connecticut, born and raised, I didn't get in as early as I wanted to, but during the Elite Eight, I got a plus 550, which isn't awesome, but it's way better than the minus 325 that my brother's texting me. Hey, can you place? No, I'm not placing a bet for you at minus 325, sir. Like, absolutely not. Like, we're not doing that because the value was earlier. That's where the value is.
Oh, if you would have placed that bet before the season started, the numbers are so crazy.
Yeah, and I'm a little sometimes I'm skeptical. I also will psych myself out, and I'm like, if I bet them, they're not going to win. So I did wait. I wanted to place that bet earlier on. I did not, and finally I pulled the trigger. And great payout still. Regardless, you still are getting that value. But yeah, you're looking at the Suns to win the title plus 500 right now. That number was totally different a couple months ago.
Yeah, because look, everybody was looking at the Denver Nuggets, which we know they'll go so far, but this is the very first time the Sacramento Kings have clinched a playoff spot since 2006. Now, to go back real quick to Kyrie, I was talking with a friend today. Kyrie may be a good fit maybe with LeBron next year with the Lakers. And to touch on the Lakers as well, did not see this late season tear coming, was writing them off 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the Lakers, it's so funny. My company, I feel like I work with all Lakers fans.
Well, yeah, because they're from California. They're from the West
Coast. We're getting a studio now. I feel like I'll be at a couple of Lakers games. It's going to be a very good time. It's an interesting bet. I'm very tempted to maybe take the Lakers. Maybe it's to appease my boss. But I don't know. It's
plus 1,600 right now.
Crazy. Yeah.
Lakers
but now's
are plus 16. Now's the time. You're right. Now is the time. We've got Wiggins coming back for the Warriors, which I think is going to be a big difference.
I love him.
Love Wiggins. Mm-hmm. And I believe he's been the missing link. They're sitting in the 5 spot. When you look at how things can shift, the Knicks just fighting to get in. The Lakers have this game tonight, Lakers-Clippers. This could be a great game because this game absolutely matters. What are you looking at right now when you look at the playoff push?
The Kings are like this very nice story and also prove that you can't, everything is still unpredictable. There's always going to be this little slight Cinderella story. I promise you can count my Nets out. I will not lie to you. I have a ticket on that because I was still blindly optimistic before the season started that the Nets would not mess up and KD would still be here.
We thought Simmons was healthy at the beginning of the season. The narrative was totally different at the beginning of the season. This was the season where Kyrie wasn't going to have to worry about not playing because of the vaccine thing. This was the season. I get where you put the bet down.
Yeah, and it's hard. And then this is where you're the homer and you kind of start slipping in. I never quite knock off the Grizzlies. I know it's I'm a little something about them.
Agreed.
I don't know what it is. Probably because I've been to a couple of games and I'm just in love with that team and the dynamic. Very interesting. I probably am leaning away from touching it right now because I think that my feelings will just dig in there.
Yeah, I get that. Let's see. We got right here. Jason says, hi guys, couple of points. One, you both got right with Embiid. It's his year. He's been great, but the Sixers will still get beat by the Celtics in the second round. Oh, there's no doubt to me. I didn't even know if the Sixers were going to make it out of the first round, to be real with you. The Sixers are look, the Knicks have a lot of momentum going right now. Can the Knicks beat the Cavs at home without home court advantage? I don't think they can, especially if Julius Randle is not back. He was in the walking boot when I was at the game the other night. He's being reevaluated next week. They've been playing well, but that's the person, that's the player, that's the force they need on the court to be a huge difference maker. And that's going to be the question.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so funny because the Celtics every year, I'm like, I promise you, I am not betting on a Boston team. I will not do that. But yeah, I also see in the chat someone saying, Grizz have always been scrappy. They are. And I feel, we keep talking, manifesting their time is coming. I do think that time will get there, but there's a lot of places that you could go as far as the futures market. I also will not knock off those Phoenix Suns.
You can't. You can't knock off the Phoenix Suns
right now.
We saw
that 2-3 years ago. They should have been in it there. So
this will be Chris Paul's first ring, and that would be legendary, being that he's played on so many teams that have gotten incredibly close. But again, never gotten there. And that's just something. But we've got the odds right now. Embiid is minus 750.
Wow.
Jokic is plus 700. And Giannis is plus 750.
Interesting. I know, but is there still Giannis plus 750? My Lord. Probably not touching it. Good thing for people that got in with the Joel way earlier than I probably did. But where are you leaning?
I'm leaning on Embiid just because of what he's doing, putting up 52 points last night, just playing lights out. I feel like he's just hit his stride. And it wasn't right after All-Star break. It's actually been the last month. He came in a little bit he was a little banged up, a little bit of days off. That's when everybody says, oh, it's going to shift. If you look at these players that are eligible when it comes between Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid, they've all missed about the same amount of games. That can no longer be a part of the narrative on who's going to be winning it. It has to be the team. And look, it is a bummer that Embiid's probably not going to go all the way, but the fact that he could get the MVP is great for Embiid, who doesn't seem like he'll ever leave Philadelphia.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad that, Embiid had to have that type of performance to get everyone's attention. So I think good for everyone that got ahead of this and was on that, because I don't think you're going to see that number shift. I think that he's going to continue to play that. He honestly has played is the thing. So kudos to everyone that got in early.
Kudos, no doubt at all. And sad for my Denver Nuggets, who I've become fans of. I'm neutral with basketball. I just love to go to games. And I got to go to Ball Arena for my first time this year. Really love their style of play, but don't think they have what it takes to get to a second or third round. I would actually put money down on that Lakers that Tyler just had put in the chat. I mean, why not at the momentum that they have right now? AD heavy, LeBron healthy. We had someone in the chat say, I've seen rumors of LeBron joining the Mavs. He'll end up where Bronny is drafted, in my opinion. I don't see LeBron joining the Mavs. And I honestly don't see LeBron leaving LA, but anything is possible. I do know that, remember, it was 2 years ago during the All-Star game, he talked about the fact that he wants to play wherever his son plays. I think that's great, but I think you should let Bronny have his own experience.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also, with every sport, there is a lot more that goes into this, a lot of politics that we don't see a lot off of the media channels. So I think that they will end up playing, LeBron's not going anywhere until he plays with his son. I think that he will allow Ronnie to have this experience. And then, yes, at some point, I remember listening back. I mean, this is 4 or 5 years ago, listening to LeBron talk about how the plan is that he is going to wait until his son is in the league. He will play with his son. And then, whatever happens after that happens. But yeah, that's another thing that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
And normally when we start Bettor Sports Live, we kick it off, we tip it off with Ricky's props. So Rick Kamla, who cannot bet because he lives in the state of Florida, I don't know what I'd be doing if I lived in a non-betting state. I remember before it was legal in New York, everybody was just taking the train one stop to Jersey. The whole train was just all draft. The stop was just DraftKings, FanDuel, added. Everybody's just getting off, place their bets and going back. It's ridiculous, but now we can do it from wherever. But he does Ricky props, so we usually get over what's going on in the NBA tonight. So I'm going to recap some of these games since we've got a couple of games in the third quarter. And your Brooklyn Nets, my friend, are 78 over the Pistons 59. So we've got the Nets 78, Pistons 59. The Knicks are playing a little bit slow tonight, but it is halftime, 70-67 taking on the Pacers. The Wizards are kind of hard to watch at this point. It was like if the Knicks did not win on Sunday against the Wizards, the game that I went to, I was like, this would just be it for me. I would be so done. Hawks over the Wizards 53-49. We've got the Celtics over the Raptors 52-40. That's still in the second quarter. The Bucks are over the Bulls 39-36, and the Grizz over the Pelicans 18-17. I think this is another great game to watch right now. Grizz Pelicans. Someone mentioned in the chat about the Grizz being scrappy. So can the Pelicans be when they want to, and that's what they're showing us tonight. This will probably be a close one till the bitter end, but so different after watching nothing but March Madness in these low-scoring games to then go back to an NBA game that's like 130 points the Knicks are putting up. You're like, okay, can somebody defend something?
You realize how fast paced the NBA is once you start watching college, and it's no knock. It's no knock at all. It has nothing to do with the fact that my alma mater, University of Arizona, got knocked out in the first. It's a little bit slower, right? It's a little bit slower than the NBA.
Yeah, but before you guys got knocked out, the week before March Madness started, there was that buzzer beater, more than a three-pointer shot. Oh, what was his name? Like, it's slipping me right now. But, when you watch a game and you put notes in your phone because you never want to forget this kid's name. It was like, I watched that game and I was like, now I'm ready. Now I am in the mood for March Madness. But then like last night's game, Monday night's game, I was like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. Yeah. Like I'm done with this now. It's making me miss, MLB started. It's making me miss other NBA games. But like once you commit, you got to commit. I did a bracket. Of course, it busted right away. My final two teams were Alabama and Houston. They didn't even get close.
It was quite the brackets were busted like no other this
by day
year.
2. By day 2, the stats of brackets being busted was just out of control. I want to remind you that the Masters are here and you need Fantasy Alarm to set your daily fantasy sports lineups and make the cut with the award-winning DFS playbook. Get winning plays, analysis, projections, lineup generators, and more. And for a limited time, get the PGA playbook plus pro DFS playbooks in all sports at half the cost for the next 6 months. Use promo code MASTERS at fantasyalarm.com and dominate DFS with the best in the business, fantasyalarm.com. Let's hit a little bit of that draft talk when we get back. Let's talk a little bit of NFL futures because this is when I start to feel like I want to start spending money on some basic bitch shit, which is team totals.
Yeah.
Like that is as basic as it gets to just get it started, and to do it before the draft is even more fun because you can look at these teams and I can think, do my Dallas Cowboys ever win more than 10 games? No, they really don't. So we can figure all this out. We're going to talk with everyone in the room. So if you have any, you can throw them in the chat while we're at break. We've got them all pulled up right here. We're going to look at team totals. We're going to talk NFL draft all right here with me and the lovely Steph Smalls, Bettor Sports Live on the Bettor Sports Network.
Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Bettor Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah, okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete, 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Faulk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
no way you know.
And Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14.
No way you know
14, also a trick question. I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders. Unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
Oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay. Keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16. Oh, okay, hold on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17. Now, this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. But yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had 2 people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Bettor Sports Network.
And we are back right here, just like so I could sing a little intro music, but that just won't happen. So we're not doing that to anybody. It's not my strong point. I do sing happy birthday once in a while on Cameo. And after I do the message, I say full disclosure. Now you know why I wasn't a singer.
Yeah, I do the same thing too.
There we were. And we are back. Steph Smalls joining the show. You can follow at Stephie Smalls on all social media. If you are not following on TikTok yet, you are truly missing out. And we are here with you, Bettor Sports Live on the Bettor Sports Network. We thank you for being here in the chat with us. And let's talk about it. We've got team futures right now for the NFL already dropping. Meanwhile, we don't know where quarterbacks are going. We don't know where wide receivers are going. The draft is still around the corner. We don't know what teams are going to be doing. But out of these, which ones do you like the most, Steph Smalls?
Yeah, we look at it. Your Cowboys are interesting. We'll get into that. What do those Jags look like right now? They're a team that I think is very.
So now, the over 10.5 wins for the Jags is at plus 115. The under 10.5 is at minus 140.
Oh, gosh, is it crazy to say that I don't hate the over?
I don't hate the over either. Look at the momentum that they picked up late in the season. A couple new pieces coming in as well that can really help one Trevor Lawrence. I think this could be a big season.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. You look at last year, they won 9 games, 9-8 was their total there, over a 500 team. They're also in the AFC South, who, let's break it down. We've got the Tennessee Titans, who have basically been hanging on by a thread for quite some time.
And that thread was held together by one Derrick Henry. Okay.
And it sounds like they're shopping him. Again, another situation. What's going on here with quarterback? Because I don't know that they are totally convinced with what I don't even think they know what they're doing. Very excited for Treylon Burks, someone that I will have a lot of exposure to in fantasy, in best ball especially. And then you've got the Colts, right? The Colts we could spend this whole 3-hour show talking about those damn Colts. Colts, I don't think, are in a much better of a situation than they were last year. We saw how that went. Yes, are they probably in the market for a quarterback? Absolutely, they are. That's not something that you can even argue. And then you've got the Texans, who I will say, actually, I wonder what their
win total to give that number on the Colts right now. Over 6.5 wins. Let's just say hypothetically you're playing for the Colts. You're a team manager. Maybe you're their social media person. And you see this is what the world expects of you. I would hope that you would take the minus 140 for the over. But most likely you're leaning towards, because you are in with the organization. You know how poorly things do go. You're going to take the under 6.5 wins at plus 115.
Oh, absolutely. And I see Andrew Jeffrey in the chat saying, why don't the Colts get Lamar? They are just so bad without a real quarterback. And they are one of those really frustrating teams, because we've seen them do this for years, just years. And we don't need to get into the history of their quarterback. But the issue is, until the Colts want to really commit and like they're very like shit or get off the pot. Like it's time to actually do something, make a splash, go after a guy, whether that is a Lamar Jackson. Like don't go for don't let a quarterback fall to you. You guys need to figure it out. And I think then you look at the Texans too, who I am probably a little bit higher on, another team that probably a little bit of a soft spot. 5.5 in that division. I think if you want to take the gamble, and we are all gambling people, I don't hate them to get to 6 wins. Maybe they could do it. I don't know.
Look, they brought in a new coach that has been resuscitating the organization, the fans, the also draw of players wanting to go and play in Houston, which was an issue. Now, no more Brandon Cooks doesn't mean they're not bringing in other pieces. So I like the Houston Texans. It's over 5.5 wins, -110. The under 5.5 wins is -110. There's no way they're losing more games than that. There's no way.
And you look at it this way too. Like if the Texans go, let's just say, if they're able to, go ahead and say they figure something out, they get CJ Stroud, right? They also can go and get a JSN who knows CJ Stroud very well because they played together. And I think that if the Texans can have a really good draft, like I've been saying this for a while, there's a lot of pieces I do like about the Texans. One of those teams that they haven't been able to put it together. Are they putting it together next year? No, but 6 wins in the NFL is not a lot.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think one of the interesting things here too is when you look at the Los Angeles Rams. The team total right now is 7.5. The over is +100. The under is -120. Here's why. We don't know what the Los Angeles Rams are right now. We know Matthew Stafford wants to come back and play. Okay, there's that. We've heard very little about how Cooper Kupp is recovering from this injury. They don't seem to be interested in Odell Beckham, which makes me wonder, like, do you have something up your sleeve that we don't know about? Their running back situation, are you keeping Cam Akers? Because remember last season, week 4, Cam Akers was like, I want to break up with you. I don't want to be with you anymore. And then Cam Akers finishes the season strong. I just don't think we know enough about what the Rams are to believe that they can win more games than what they're being credited for, which is 7.5. But this is a bet that I would completely stay away from because of all of the information I just gave you. Lack of information. I don't feel good enough one way or the other.
And you know what? The Rams, and maybe they're getting like this weird market boost because, you're in the NFC, but right now, you look at last year, they had 5 wins. They kind of sold their soul to the devil. So yeah, they got the Super Bowl and that's awesome, right? That is the end goal. But was it worth, maybe what the next 5-10 years looks like? We can go as far as to say that. You're also in a division, the NFC West, who 49ers are still in a good spot regardless. No matter what,
they're just getting better.
It doesn't matter. Like they're a team that is so built for success that you can plug and play a quarterback at this point and you're in a good situation. And then you have the Seahawks who, and no one can lie, I know all of you were taking the under on their win total last year, which they exceeded by 4 games plus. I believe at one point it was either 4.5, 5.5. And the Cards, they're a shit show. They're a shit show, and that's the best way to describe it. But I think the Rams are in a not a very pretty spot right now. I would lean the under on that bet. But again, another team that I'm probably staying away from. I don't trust the Stafford stuff. I don't think we're getting the whole story. I wouldn't be surprised if Stafford does play, we're not getting a full season. That is something that
how can we and why should we? Yeah, why should we believe it? When you brought about San Fran, it's a great point. They did show us last year with 3 quarterbacks going in there, plug and play and getting it done, right? So that's what we see. But Stafford's had major injuries. This isn't just an injury-prone situation. These are major injuries. This back injury, this injury. The only way Cooper Kupp can succeed is to have a quarterback can sling it. And yet we don't know if Cooper is going to come back in 100% spot. But let's just get there. Let's go to my team, my Dallas Cowboys. We no longer have Zeke, which you know what I'm okay with. Picking up Ronald Jones, I'm not okay with, okay? That had to be the worst news I had gotten. I was like, okay, I had just ripped off the Band-Aid. We don't have Zeke. We don't even know if Tony Pollard is 100% as of yet with that late injury. Okay, great. But I do believe in Tony Pollard. Zeke was really Pollard did all the work last year and Zeke got to get all the touchdowns. I find that to be incredibly unfair, but I get it. You're going to just terrorize Zeke's body by throwing him into the scrum. Smart move. Now you get rid of him. But really, what do you think we can get with Ronald Jones? And like Ronald Jones is one of these lucky dudes that has Super Bowl rings where he played very little. He has a ring for not playing really at all last year in Kansas City. He gets the ring the year before in Tampa. What can Ronald Jones do for my Dallas Cowboys?
I don't know. Talking about you bring in my New York Giants, like Ronald Jones is a warm body at this point. If you're a fantasy football player, you know the pain that Ronald Jones has probably caused you. You have probably continued to draft him. Maybe you got out early. Maybe you did not. Maybe you fell into the hype. Again, Ronald Jones doesn't do much for me. And then you start hearing, right, like Zeke is actually going to come, and again, wouldn't shock me with your Dallas Cowboys. Not a totally shocking thing. Tony Pollard would love to see what he can do. My concern is the fact that Zeke is a fantastic blocker. That is something that the Dallas Cowboys were really heavily leaning into. So my hope is for you guys, not as a Giants fan, but my hope for the Dallas Cowboys is that you're going to have to compensate for the fact that Zeke isn't there, because I think he was playing a bigger role than we were seeing fantasy football. And
I agree. And look, that's why I was so bummed about bringing on Ronald Jones, because I don't think he's a fantastic blocker. Because if you recall, Leonard Fournette had the trust of Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. Ronald Jones didn't. And that's a blocking situation, if you ask me. And that's a big undercover. And you're right. We have Mr. Scampers in the room that says Rojo's not making the roster. That's a possibility, right? He might not make the roster, but who are we putting in that spot that has the experience? I didn't love letting Zeke go, but I thought we would be making room to bring in another really good blocking running back, a stud. So it was just like, okay, I had hope. And then Rojo, I was like, oh, this is like a bookmark. What are you doing? You're just holding the page. This is not going to succeed or protect Dak, which is a thing. But when we look at the totals right now, Dallas Cowboys win totals over 9.5 is -130. Under 9.5 is +110. Where would you go with that, Steph?
Yeah, you know what? And I think you definitely said it before. These Dallas Cowboys, you can count them for 10 games a season, no matter what, whether it goes over. But I will say that NFC East, we're only 2-3 years removed from this NFC least thing. This division is headed in a direction where we're actually going to get some much better football than we've seen the last 2 years. You're seeing the Giants kind of take stake in their players. They're going to get another draft under Joe Shane. I also would not knock off these we don't know what the Commanders could be every single year. We say this, who the hell knows? It depends what draft they have. But I think the Cowboys and the Eagles still at this point, they're going to continue to run this division for maybe not much longer. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. The Eagles have a lot of turning pieces coming here soon, but those Dallas Cowboys, no matter what, they're in a good spot. You keep guys healthy. The line is always going to concern me. It's interesting to see what they're maybe going to do in the draft. They're a team that I can never figure out, because they're going to be the ones to, jump to get a wide receiver that they want, or they're the team
and
that
not build the line. Yep.
Yeah. It depends on the direction they go, but come on. The Dallas Cowboys are normally good for at least 10 wins.
At least 10. This is 9.5. You bring up the Eagles, the Eagles, we know, getting that close. Eagles just play so consistently well both sides of the ball, their defense, but the Eagles are not going to be the same this year. They have a lot of players potentially retiring. We don't know yet what's going to happen with Fletcher Cox, a great example, been a veteran for that team, been so stable for that team. So we saw so much. And then They broke history with the day after the Super Bowl, losing more coordinators than any other team did in one day. So that shows me, okay, you've now broken up the band, right? You've taken the most instrumental pieces of your band that brought you this success, and you're hoping that somebody else coming in can duplicate, but they're not going to. So that's what gives me a little bit more if with the Eagles. When we talk about the Patriots, I want to ask you, are you a Mac Jones believer?
No, I wouldn't say I am a Mac Jones believer. I probably am higher on him than your average Joe. And a lot of that comes from the fact that, like, I've seen Eli Manning win my team 2 Super Bowls. I know that you don't have to be Patrick Mahomes. I also think that Kirk Cousins is a fine quarterback. So do I think that Mac Jones is this no, he was I was lower on him. He was in that class much lower than a lot of people had him for myself. So no, I'm not a believer. I think that they would be in a position to move. I think New England is in this weird spot because for so long they're this dynasty that we all just talk about nonstop. And they're shifting now. And knowing them, they're probably going to go into the draft. And I think they have pick 14, maybe. They're going to go and, get a Deontay Banks and go cornerback or something like that, where maybe, they'd be better off going elsewhere. But yeah, I was honestly surprised by the Mac Jones pick when he went there initially.
And I also don't think he's been given the greatest arsenal of weapons. So that's been an issue where he's kind of made it work with what he's had. Like, if you could give me Mac Jones in a situation like Jalen Hurts was in this season, I'd like to see how different his style of play would be, how much more production he would have, because he still does use his legs when he look, I had him in fantasy quite a few shares because I know he's going to play. He's healthy. He's a big dude, right? He takes hits, but he's smart enough. He's not getting you your Patrick Mahomes yards per week in your matchups, but you're also drafting him in the 9th or the 10th round. Yeah. So you're able to get all of your other positional pieces. And talk about the draft. You're right, because the Patriots don't have a pick in the first 13. We've got the Bears going first, the Texans going second, and the Cardinals going third. The Indianapolis Colts going fourth with the need for the quarterback is going to be very interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I have a tweet from probably November. Will Levis just screams Indianapolis Colts. Like, if Indianapolis Colts were a person, it's almost Will Levis. I don't know what it is. And they probably will. But now, again, I don't think it's in the Colts' best interest to actually trade back from this spot, which a lot of people are also talking about. I don't think that is the smartest choice. Could they do something very silly and go defensive? Yeah, they probably could. But again, they're taking a quarterback. We saw last year too, and I think a lot of people are taking into account. Yes, I recognize the talent is very different. Like, it's night and day. We don't entirely know exactly the way that this draft is going to go. So yeah, I think that, Will Levis seems like you're probably going to be a Colt. And if not, like, I would love for them to actually make a splash with an Anthony Richardson. Like, if he's there, like, just go for it. Like, let me see, like, I want to see the Colts be like, not that it's not a knock on Will, but I want to see them really try to change around the franchise.
And that would be the moving piece. And, the movement of, like, the Texans between the Bears. I'm glad that the Bears have made that decision that, like, we know we're not taking a quarterback. We don't need to.
Yeah.
But when you look at the first couple rounds of this draft and you look at Bryce Young, do you think his size is going to hurt him? Because from what I've learned about him through listening to coaches talk about him, through players talk about him, is he way makes up for his size and his football IQ.
Yeah, and I've heard that too. And it really sounds like this kid's football IQ is something that, we see teams actually. This is where you see the Twitter trolls going, wait a second, why did that happen? What? It's because you are not an official scout. You do not know what people are exactly looking for. Again, so talking about futures here, I do have a future on CJ Stroud being the first quarterback taken off the board. You will not.
What did you
find
get it at,
question.
and where did you
I
bet
got it at plus 300, 350 at FanDuel. And then probably like a week later, we had all the CJ Stroud stuff come out. But I think, again, like, is there a spot where this is smoke? Is there a spot where Bryce Young is the number 1 overall pick? Sounds like there is a very big possibility. I have heard that CJ Stroud is someone that they are very interested in, though. So, but again, we see this every year, right? Remember Malik Willis last year?
Yeah.
Come on.
And we know that there's, like you said, this is smoke season. This is a great time to kind of, you're kind of throwing people off. Our producer, Tyler, who you can follow at Heavy T on Air, just put in the chat, Lance Zierlein, he has put out his mock draft. He's got the Texans taking Will Levis at 7. And he's got the Texans taking Will Levis and the Patriots taking Richardson at 14. So that means the Texans would take that 7 spot and they would go with Will Levis, and then Patriots would take Richardson, which would be really hard for Mac Jones.
Yeah. And then, and then you hear, again, I take it with a grain of salt because Joe Judge, I unfortunately had the privilege of coaching my team, and I think he went over there. It sounds like that did not go well. We all know the Patricia story. I don't love that at all for the Texans. That feels very hot takey unless they are to trade down, but they also still have draft capital. So
they do.
It doesn't entirely make sense. Like, I think the best case scenario for the Texans, get CJ Stroud, pair him with JSN, and go on your merry way and figure it out from there. Like, or honestly, a lot of these teams, when you're not going to win 7, 8, 9 games next year, 10 games, if you're not going to make a play, just take the best player available and go. Like, don't
build your team. Yep.
Yeah, build it out. You got to build the roster. And, a lot of teams, they don't, you see the depth on the chart. These guys, none of these guys got drafted from the team that they're on. And I think the teams that have had success are the ones that were able to keep around the players that they drafted within their program.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for us to be looking at how we really think these players, we know positions like running back and wide receiver have a much better chance of succeeding within their first season in their new home than, let's say, a tight end or a quarterback. Quarterback, it's not the worst thing in the world to get drafted and not be playing immediately. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to sit behind Mac Jones and be a part of the Bill Belichick organization. As for the Seattle Seahawks, who still get to benefit from getting themselves rid of Russell Wilson, I'll ask you, do you think Russell Wilson has a better season this year, or do you think Russell Wilson still disappoints? I mean, he got the bag. He definitely looked heavier, which to me changed everything about his technique last season. He had the most dad bod of any quarterback I'd seen in a long time.
Here's the thing. Like, first of all, we'll just start off with, can you have a worse season than he had for Russell Wilson? I was very skeptical going into this. I think that there is pieces of like this Nathaniel Hackett and whatever it is, but we're seeing a franchise, right? We're seeing players screaming at each other on the sidelines. They're not putting it together. All the pieces are there. I still stand by this take. I felt this way from day one. I think the Seahawks won that trade. I think that is a beautiful way to get out on a guy towards the end of his career. And you saw what they did. What, they win 9, 8 games last year? They were fine. And I think that, does he play better next year? Yes. But again, it's, you see Tampa with Brady and Stafford with the Rams, and everyone's expectation is, oh, this is possible. Oh, we can win. You know how many people must have lost money on Super Bowl tickets for the Broncos?
Oh, everybody was so
many.
hot on it. And it shows you the narrative that can be behind the narrative of Russell Wilson getting that much money made everyone really believe he was a better quarterback than he was. And then when you flip the script and you look at Geno Smith having this resurgence on his career, which was beautiful, we also learned that Seattle was a better team than we thought they were, and that we thought it was Russell Wilson that made Seattle better. DK Metcalf was slipping in drafts. Tyler Lockett, who's one of my darlings always in drafts, And I'll take him in season long and best ball because of what he can do. They showed us how committed they were as a team, what a great organization Seattle is. And that really brought out the best in Geno. And it made Russell Wilson look even worse. It made the Broncos look even worse. And those players in Seattle kept it so quiet how they felt about him.
Yeah.
And that was not the case in Denver for the Broncos players who were like, we're not having this. This is not good.
No, not at all. And I mean, you even look at like his yards to touchdowns, like last year, like he did pass the ball. It's not that that didn't happen, but we're talking about 16 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Like that is not something we have seen. His second, the last time he's thrown that few is probably 2014. I was probably still a college student when he even threw only 20. So, I mean, we're looking at a guy who has had so much success. There was rumblings of there being issues. I think that Carroll deserves a lot of credit because I think he got knocked as a coach, which he is one of the best coaches in the league. He's also one of the best coaches actually in the history of the NFL. He's in that you could get him there and place him wherever you want. He's a great coach. And I think that Russell Wilson really took away from that.
The team total, win total right now for the Denver Broncos, over 8.5 is -110. Under 8.5 is also -110. Where would you put your money?
Why can't I do it with the Broncos? And maybe
because there's some bets to me, I can't get there either. And that's why we don't force bets, right?
No.
When I look at something and I read it and I automatically feel no confidence towards it and I have to overthink it, I think this is money that I'm just going to be spending. Why do I want to spend this money? Because in a week, there's going to be new things I want to bet on. You don't have to place every bet. And when you get that feeling right away where you're uncertain, that's really the best way to keep yourself from getting bitter about betting, getting yourselves in situations you don't want to be in, and having too much money floating out there unnecessarily. There's so many other things to get in the mix of. But tomorrow you are going to be getting in the mix of, and every day for the Masters. Watch the Masters and join us for Bettorcast tomorrow morning starting at 10:15 Eastern Time. Play the only live sports question and answer game where you can watch the Masters, chat with golf fans, predict what will happen, and compete in a chance to win an authentic Masters mini gnome. Only on the Bettor Sports Network app. Moose and Keith can be found on bettorsports.com and the Bettor Sports Network YouTube page, plus Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. I wonder how many people take time off from work to actually watch the Masters.
Oh, there's got to be
a ton of people.
And there's no way that people are fully tuned in.
Don't be a bitter better. I mean, Mr. Scampers thought that was funny, but it's true. Don't be a bitter better. Like when my friends come to me like, oh my God, I'm not betting anymore. I'm like, well, you place dumb bets.
Yeah.
Like obviously you're just think about it and look at things and say, I'm not good with it. We were solid on some of them. But the reason I ask about staying home is because this game show sounds kind of fun on the Bettorcast. And I know there's so much conversation to be had when it comes to the Masters. So that kind of interaction, it's pretty cool that Moose and Keith will still be streamed. So you could like be on the app playing the game show. You could still be watching Moose and Keith if you want to, still have the TV on with the Masters going. I mean, it's a lot of data to be collecting.
Yeah. And the Masters, and I love that everyone's like getting into golf now and falling in love with the sport and the players. And, you see this generation, they really like falling in love with individual players. You're seeing them not like teams. So golf is the perfect sport and it's really taking off. And it's nice that, you can have it on and also watch a show. Like it's one of those sports that allows you to, pay attention to more than one thing sometimes.
It does. It's not like an NBA game where you got to be like glued in or the Super Bowl or something fast paced and moving. We're going to be fast paced and moving when we get back because we have another guest coming up in the third hour. I cannot believe we are already at the third hour right here, Steph. Everybody that's been in here, luckily, our friend Jeff, Scrimp Daddy, is like, I am off for all three. I'm off for 3 of the 4 rounds of the Masters. I can't wait. This makes me super happy. We'll be super happy with you when we get back. You're listening to Steph Smalls and Lisa Ann right here on Bettor Sports Live on the Bettor Sports Network.
Talk sports with Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Bettor Sports Network.
Let me say something about Tiger. Tiger has had to redesign his entire swing. Tiger has a difference in the length of his legs because of that horrible accident. You know, in golf, there's no like, hey, you can't walk the greens, you have to take a cart. So I assumed by day 3 on Sunday, you know, the inflammation would start. He took a couple breaks where they take care of his back a little bit, but it is fascinating watching him. So it gave me this thought, like, is he that skilled at golf? Or is this a mental thing of dedication and determination? He is so dedicated to the sport that no matter what, he's relentless to it. And the dedication and determination goes to the golf, the swing, the playing, the walking, but it goes to his overall health. The average person who doesn't stay in great shape, gets in an accident like that, goes through multiple surgeries, is not recovering and going out there to walk. And that course has some pretty steep inclines, a lot of walking. I mean, how else can you factor these athletes, you know, the Michael Jordans, the LeBrons, these players that just, their whole focus is really optimal health, optimal body skills, optimal. And then what comes next is being the best at what they do.
I think you just hit on why Tiger still has that drive. I don't know this. I don't know the man. It could just be love of the game. It could be, yo, I want to make as much money as I can while playing. Could be all this stuff. But LA, a lot of people think Tiger Woods is the GOAT of golf. And I don't understand how you can be the GOAT of golf when you are 3 majors short of Jack Nicklaus. Okay. So like LeBron, I don't think he cares what guys like me say anymore, right? He's past Kareem. He thinks he's the GOAT. I mean, he's 3rd on my list. He's in the debate. Many other people think he's the GOAT. He's not my GOAT. You know what I mean? So I wonder if Tiger is there, like LeBron, like, I don't care what the pundits, what the barbershops say. I'm the GOAT. I don't have to do anything more. This is all gravy. I wonder if Tiger looks at it that way.
I don't know what Tiger's mindset is in the GOAT status, but when players talk about what it's like to be at a tournament, when Tiger's playing versus when he's not, they'll tell you that they're on the greens and they can hear the roar 4 holes over, and that there is nothing that compares to the excitement of when he's present.
Bettor Sports Live, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, exclusively on Bettor Sports Network. Or listen whenever you want on the app with BSN On Demand.
And we are back right here, the final hour. Steph Smalls, Lisa Ann, Bettor Sports Live on the Bettor Sports Network. It is time to get into a sport that we don't talk too much about, but I'm going to say this. Adding a pitch clock to the MLB was probably one of the greatest pieces of news. And I can tell the old heads from us when this conversation comes up, because people are like, oh my gosh, you know, baseball should stay the way that it is. Like, I can't. You shave 30 minutes off a game, it is much more doable, especially when there are cocktails involved for a day game outside in the summer.
Absolutely. And also, the only thing they could have done better than the pitch clock is bring back steroids, which is like the only thing, right? Like, there's only 2 ways that you could have made this better. One is probably not the best route, not something we support here on the show. But yes, I think that it's, you know, at least for someone like me who fell off of baseball, I was born and raised watching the Yankees. That was a huge deal, huge part of my childhood. But yeah, now I can start sneaking my way back into the MLB light.
And I'll tell you what's been really cool about the pitch clock. Stolen bases are up at such a miraculous rate that if you drafted your fantasy team and you're like me and you are obsessed with stolen bases, people are always like, don't get wrapped up in stolen bases. Well, for those who did get wrapped up in stolen bases, you're winning. Stolen bases on this season are up over 80% right now, which is incredible. And it makes perfect sense because we're now not waiting 10 minutes for a pitch now. News this week, Manny Machado becomes the very first player to get ejected because of a pitch clock issue. I love the drama. I love all that's come with it. And we know that drama is what really leads us in. So Anthony Rendon himself got into a little drama, and Tyler, our producer at Heavy T on Air, has the video for us.
What you say? Yeah, you called me a bitch, huh? Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, motherfucker. Calm down.
I love that. I love that energy so early in the season, but I have to say this. Rendon had a 5-game suspension. It was brought down to a 4-game suspension. Where is the accountability for the fan? They'll say, oh, I mean, you should see it in basketball now. There's a lot more security, but where is the accountability? And I'll tell you what, if I was a dude hopped up after just being out there, playing baseball all day, and I heard some guy call me a bitch, you know what? I might be hella tempted as well to be like, let's talk this out in person, because would that guy call Anthony Rendon, who has forearms alone that could knock that guy's teeth out of his ears, would he have done that? And why do fans do this? Why have we become this society that fans are screaming and yelling? By the way, A's didn't ban him because they need all the attendance they can get for their sorry ass team is the reason. But I just don't love it, but I don't love that he gets that suspension, because in MLB, those are also no paydays.
Yeah, and you know what? Listen, in any other scenario in life, in any situation, someone's gonna swing. Like he actually had some decent composure for where he is. I see a lot of people saying he should know better because of the salary he's making, and that's fine. But again, like it's accountability too. Like I think you hold the accountability of, yes, he did kind of like swing at him, and you have to hold yourself to, like, I am a professional athlete. The blah 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 blah. You can go on and talk about it, but also, yeah, like, why are we not talking about the fact that this fan needs to also be held accountable? We saw this. What was that video? It was I think it was Raiders, Patriots, whatever it was. And the fan is like screaming in this one guy's face, and he just keeps his composure. That fan should just never be allowed back in that football stadium, period, or any football stadium across the country.
And I bet you right now, with the 4-game suspension, Rendon's wishing he didn't just grab his shirt, that he actually landed one. To just land one. But, the fan said, look, the fan called him a bitch. So Cap was on the chat said, what did the fan say? I thought he just said, you suck. Yeah. Does a fan deserve that? Look, I understand there's taunting. I was great when I was at Ball Arena watching the Nuggets. Their fans all get together and they like yell at the refs, and they start this whole chant, you suck, you suck, to the refs. Yeah. I get there's that in sportsmanship, but in baseball, especially, if you remember growing up, maybe going to games, families bring their kids to games. There's just no need for that type of animosity. There's just no need for any of this kind of banter, but you're actually directly saying, look, you say you suck, that's kind of a sports thing. But if you're directly calling another man a bitch, those, to me, where I'm from, those are fighting words.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is totally different. It's so funny. My quick little story, Yankee Stadium, probably one of my first games there. The guy behind me was chirping, and he's trying to keep it kind of PG because I'm there, my brother's there. And he's yelling, I don't even know what player, who it was. And he's like, yeah, you're just a cupcake with no icing. And I guess for weeks after, that's all I could say, like, very friendly, because my mom tells a story all the time. Like and then for a while, I'm just talking about, cupcakes without icing. I'm telling people at school this, you're a cupcake with no icing. I got in so much trouble for it. And, but again, like, this guy, and maybe it's the way it's situated and the fans are so close to where those guys are bad scenario. I mean, calling a guy, we're calling him a bitch, and what are we doing here?
What are we doing? And also, it's kind of like the guy with one follower that said we only had 7 viewers. Yeah. Buddy, you've probably never been athletic enough to play a game of baseball, let alone travel for 10 months of your life and live on the road for this sport with the endless amount of games. Yeah. It is such a tough sport to follow, especially when it comes to anything other than DFS, right? DFS is fun. You're going to watch a couple of games. Maybe you want to get in the mix. But for season long, it is a long season to manage. It intersects with NBA, it intersects with NFL. I find that, like, everybody kind of loses interest if you're down on that lower 4, lower 5. But as a New York Mets fan, I hope things turn around, but our home opener is going to be a flooded, rainy mess. So our first game at home, poor Mr. and Mrs. Met with their big heads have to get really special umbrellas because they just can't use a regular umbrella and not get wet.
No, they cannot. And it's a little bit on brand, I will say, for the Mets to have like this rainy, very torrential type. Maybe it's a little bit of a foreshadowing here. Always impartial to the Mets, despite being a Yankees fan. But yes, I think, fans are so entitled. Like, you're not going to walk into someone's workplace and you're literally in their workplace. It's like going up to his cubicle and saying, you're a bitch. What do you think is going to happen? Especially if there's someone from, and I don't know where exactly he's from, but good Lord, like, you say those things around some of us that are from the Northeast or from Philadelphia, you're going to get yourself smacked.
By the way, Mr. Scamper says he's definitely using that chirp, by the way, because nothing could be worse than a cupcake with no icing.
No, it's horrible. Think about it. Awful. It's
Your
like having just
biscuits
a
got
mini
no
cake.
gravy. Here's another one. All of that. It's me. Travis is in the room. Great to see you in the room tonight, Travis. And thanks to all of you who are in here with us chatting. I don't know if you put any money down on the MLB, but let's talk about some of the odds. Right now, the odds for AL MVP, Shohei Ohtani at plus 180, Aaron Judge at plus 600, and Mike Trout at plus 800. You got any feels on these, Steph?
I don't, like I said, now that I'm creeping myself back into loving MLB, our dear friend Allie also will not let me live it down. She is all in on those Braves, no matter what it is. Spencer Strider is one of my fantasy pitchers. I don't have a strong take on MLB, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with flirting and rekindling my relationship. I'd actually love to hear where you lean.
Well, I think the downside for Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani is the fact that they're playing for the Angels, we've got the best talent on one team, and they can't seem to get themselves recognized, acknowledged. It's that same kind of thing with the Nets and the Knicks. No matter how good the Nets are, everybody's still more in love with the Knicks. They fall under that with the Los Angeles Dodgers, but Aaron Judge had such a monster season last year that I think what's going to work against Aaron Judge is the fact that the expectations are so high. He hit a home run day one, and all of a sudden everybody's like, well, if he hits one every game, then he's going to exceed. Just because he hit a home run opening day of MLB doesn't mean he's going to beat that total from last season. So I think people get ahead of themselves. But if Shohei Ohtani stays healthy, I would take the plus 180 on Shohei, because I really love what he does. The fact that he pitches and hits, the fact that he is so good that he doesn't need rest days. If you think about the schedules that a regular MLB pitcher has, getting so many rest days, and the fact that Shohei is like, I don't want those rest days. That's not good for me. I want to be up. I want to be batting. Like, that's just, we haven't seen it done for this many seasons in a row. We saw Babe Ruth do it. I think it was 2 seasons, but I like the Shohei. I'll go to odds for NL MVP. And then we've got, we're going to bring in Andrew for our call.
Love
the odds,
it. Yeah.
The odds for the NL MVP, Juan Soto at plus 600, Trey Turner at plus 700, Ronald Acuna Jr. at plus 850. These three right here, what I picture with all three of these is the amount of stolen bases the three of these are going to get. They're going to be stealing bags, because the pitch clock works in their favor. And I don't see Aaron Judge wasting his time. Why does he need to be fighting to steal bags, right? It is that is going to be the difference there. But let's do it. Tyler's got a call that he feels really good about.
Okay.
We trust Heavy T on air.
Oh, that's lovely. What a lovely surprise.
What up, gang?
What up, Andrew? You gracing us with your presence.
I just wanted to call in to call you guys a couple cupcakes with no icing.
I seriously, that was my insult as a child. I need to use that more on Twitter, I think.
I think it's just rough enough, because it says like you're kind of sweet, but not sweet.
Just
enough.
missing the mark there.
And if you could find a GIF that has like the icing off, like something that like really represented it well, or like the two, like would you rather have?
Yeah, a picture of a cupcake just that fell like frosting down on the ground. Would be just right.
Ideal.
Andrew, it is great to have you here. Let's talk about what you want to talk about. Are you on the MLB tip? Are we talking NBA, a little NFL futures, or are we talking with you about the weekend ahead, the Masters?
You know that I'm a football guy, which is why I come on here to ask you ladies about golf. I want to know, so I've been invited to a bunch of pools. I truly am not plugged in. So I want to know the Stephie Smalls Ringer player. I want to know the Lisa Ann Ringer player. What do you guys have? I want the deep cuts that are going to make the difference. Because we all pick our favorites, but I need that. I need the ringer. So what do you guys got?
Steph, you go first right here.
Hey, listen here. And we talked about this a little bit. Do not be afraid to take those live guys. I actually think they're entering this refreshed. I think that, yes, they have not played as competitive, whatever you want to say. They also made their bag, and guess what? They're getting massages every fucking day. They are chilling out and they are living their
money
best
changes
life.
a lot. It's not everything, but it changes a lot. You know what I mean? They're eating their best food. They're ordering everything they want all the time. I'm with you on that.
Yes. I think looking at this from just a form perspective, you look at the guys like you're not going to get better than Scheffler. My sweatshirt says Scotty Scheffler is my dad for good reason. If he doesn't win back-to-back this year, he's going to win another Masters, if not more than one. I feel very confidently in that. You look at Spieth, everyone's off Spieth. There's a lot of ways that you can play this.
There's no chance my buddies from college are on the oil money massage every day narrative. So
there you go. DJ, Dustin Johnson, you can definitely get weird with it, depending on what the pool looks like.
I mean, how can you not be looking at that? Your life completely changes. We learned about the suffering that the PGA players were actually going through with paying their way, paying the hotels, flying coach and having to put a trophy up in. Remember Zalatoris? Wasn't it Zalatoris having to stuff that thing up in the overhead storage? Like when you learned about that suffering, you realized what it was all about. Now your life becomes different. You no longer have to worry about things. Everything is more plush around you. You're wearing cashmere every day. It's just a different. I'm right there with Steph, though. I think Scotty is on such a tear right now. I understand why he is her dad. He's on a tear. He's been playing really consistent. He's in a good rhythm. I think it's going to be a fluky player that is able to knock him off. And I think by the day 2, we're going to see the spread, the difference being so great. But he's easy to get out of his own way when he has a bad hole, moves on, gets it done again. He's just been really feeling it. It's been fun to watch him.
Very fun to watch him.
All right. Well, that's what I needed to hear. And not only am I picking him for my squad, I'm putting a little money on him to win the whole thing. Why not?
You're a little late to the party. You probably should have put money on him a couple of weeks ago. You know this, Andrew.
Well, I follow you guys on Twitter, but...
Yeah. I have one question for you before you get out of here. Who is your sleeper tight end pick for fantasy football? Because you are the tight end guy. So I think you're due to at least answer that before you get out.
Wow. I come on as a guest and that's you guys. And I'm getting backdoor. Now I'm working. Now I'm on the clock. Now it's the sleeper tight end right now.
You offered yourself up here for Bettor Sports Live. We did not give you a show rundown. There were no do's or don'ts. We didn't get any rules and requirements. So now here we are.
Dude.
I'm looking at some early money, and we're thinking we could get some early money with you.
I'm the guest. You know what I mean? It's like a guest comes to your house, and you're like, where's the dish? I will. So I guess being a good guest, you would bring a dish, right? So I will.
Yes, you would. Do not show up empty-handed. The Italian culture, that is incredibly rude.
All right. Well, in honor of the Italians, I will bring one tight end dish for you guys. We want guys that have athleticism that can be a top 2 target on their team, which is crucial, right? Because we've seen very good tight ends have to wait their turn, right? Delaney Walker waited 7 years behind Vernon Davis. This guy right now has an opportunity to be a top 2 guy. He ran a 4.52 40, which is the same as George Kittle. George Kittle pretty fast, for those that don't know. He is the only question mark is his quarterback, but if it's Ryan Tannehill, and I'm giving it away now, then I'm in. It's Chig Okonkwo. That's my sleeper right now. He's the guy. Evan Engram, I love you, but you were last year. This year, Chig. All right, let's do it.
Move on over. Yeah, love him.
Moving over.
Have a lot of dynasty in him. Love it.
And Evan Engram really did put a good season together, and I see a lot of that coming again. But Coop, thank you so much for gracing us late night. Get your bets in. You should be listening to everything that Steph does, and it comes to covering golf. And Steph will be there, and though she won't be able to have a camera with her, I'm sure we'll be getting a lot of updates before and after on the talk and all social media at Stephie Smalls.
All right, I'm taking off. I got one last thing to say. Well, 2 last things. First, shout out chat. Campers, Capwise, see you guys out there. Second, Better Boss, I see you in the chat. Matt, let's make this show permanent with these two. This is the one. This is the one the people want. All right, we've been waiting.
Okay, the voting starts right here.
Voting starts now.
We didn't even have to campaign, Steph. Look at this.
It's
Everyone,
easy.
follow at Coop A Flasco. Thank you so much for stopping by and saying hi. We appreciate you. And we've got our guest in the queue, Steph. So your friend that we're going to be bringing up, Len Hotchberg, who you can follow at Len Hotchberg, is going to be joining us. He is a senior golf writer at RotoWire, and Tyler said he is ready to go. So let's do it.
Yeah. Hello,
Hey, Len.
Hi, everybody. Lisa Ann, Steffi. I didn't bring a dish, but I have some information. Hopefully, I can provide for people.
Well, Len, thank you so much for joining everybody. Senior golf writer at RotoWire. You can follow at Len Hotchberg. Bring your dish to us in the form of your information for the exciting tournament that we've all been waiting for, the Masters.
Yeah, it's just so many storylines. It's just, I mean, there are always storylines. It just seems like there are more than ever. Tiger, the big three, the weather, which wasn't even in my original thought process when I started writing my article, the live golfers, the new 13th hole. I mean, let's get to it.
Where do you want to start? Let's start with how you feel this is going to be different with the live golfers participating. There was so much drama circling, something we haven't seen in the past in the PGA. And now it's face to face. Let's get this going. I think these players coming back must feel a sense of gratitude to be able to be a part of the tournament that they weren't really sure about at this time last year. How do you think they'll play, and how do you think they'll be received?
Of all the things that I mentioned, I think this is probably the biggest unknown. We don't know how they're going to play. We know they're going to be fired up and they feel disrespected, and maybe rightfully so. But they have not played a lot of golf since leaving for live. They don't play a lot of tournaments. They play 54 holes when they do. The quality of the competition isn't great. So it's really a wild card. Some of these guys, though, Cam Smith, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, I mean, they're good enough to win when they're at their best. But where are they now? It's been one of the hardest things to handicap for me, and I suspect a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from a DFS standpoint, is there a direction that how are you taking DFS with these live guys? Because I think it is something where a lot of people are feeling challenged with.
Yeah, and rightfully so. And when I do my DraftKings article, there are 88 guys in this field. I try and pick 12 that I like the best. I do another article where I rank every guy 1 to 88. But in this DraftKings article, speaking of DFS, and I picked 3 live guys. And, quite candidly, I thought I should have to have some live guys in here, just not have live guys in here. So the 3 I picked were Dustin Johnson at 8,800. That seems, if he is anywhere near where he normally is or was, I mean, that's a steal. He's a $10,000 guy. So at 8,800, that would be fantastic. And 2 other guys down in the 6s I like, Taylor Gooch, who played great in all 3 majors, in 3 of the 4 majors last year, 14th at the Masters. He also played in a DP World Tour event. Not too many guys played too many non-live events, and they didn't do well in them. He was 4th at the BMW PGA Championship. Granted, that was last fall. He's at $6,800. I think he's better than some 7s and maybe even some low 8s. And Kevin Na at $6,500. The guy finishes in the top 15 almost every year at this tournament, even though he's a shorter hitter. It's just a marvel to see him play because he's so disadvantaged off the tee. But 12th or 13th or 11th, something like that, the last 3 years running, those 3 guys stood out to me in the DraftKings prices.
And we know how much course history matters here too. So you look at those numbers and the success that they've had, and it's a really important, I think, piece of this handicapping for this tournament.
Absolutely. Someone like Corey Connors, even before he won the Valero on Sunday, he was very high in my rankings, and he was going to go in among my picks at $7,600, a price that could fit in every lineup. The last 3 years, he's gone from 10th to 8th to 6th. That's a pretty, in a few years, my math tells me he should win. And he wasn't even that good of a golfer 3 years ago, but he's obviously much better now.
Len Hochberg, we thank you so much for joining us. I know it's exciting for all of us to see Tiger Woods back out there on the greens, even though we don't expect Tiger to take the green jacket home. Seeing him out, Genesis Invitational was a great showing. See him after this accident. Does Tiger make the cut? And how do you think he'll finish, especially because the weather could be a variable that affects Tiger possibly more than other players out there at the Masters?
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely. As the weather forecast gets worse and worse, and it's looking really bad, cold and rain on the weekend, really that's kryptonite for Tiger Woods and all of his ailing body parts. And he has many, many ailing body parts, unfortunately. His tee time is early, late. And that is good for him from a recovery standpoint of getting a lot of time in between the first round and the second round. But it's also bad in the sense that the bad weather is starting to move in Friday afternoon. He tees off around in the 1 o'clock hour, something like that, local time. The bad weather, the rain is supposed to move in. Well, it'll still be warm on Friday, so that's good. But there's a chance he has about 6 hours of daylight to complete his round. Maybe a little more. But if there are rain delays, he may not be able to complete his round on Friday. He'd have to come back Saturday, complete his round, then play, if he does make the cut, and I suspect he will, then play another 18. So it's hard enough for him to play 18 holes a day for 4 days. But if he's got to go 20, 23 holes on Saturday, I don't know. I don't know if he could finish the tournament then, as stark as that may be.
That's fair. I think that's very fair. As far as out rates go, looking at let's just look at the top of the board, the big three. You mentioned them. Is there a lean you have on one of those top three? Like we said, course history matters. You look at what Scheffler is doing right now, and it's fantastic. We saw Rahm get hot a little bit early. Rory, we would all love to see him put on that green jacket. Where do you lean as far as the top three go?
It's so hard to stay away from Scotty Scheffler. I mean, although a month ago it was that hard to stay away from Jon Rahm. So I think that, recency bias is just a wonderful thing. So I think, they're all three there, and they're all playing musical chairs of sorts in the early going this year. They've all been number one. I'll give you two stats that just blow my mind about in relation to Scotty Scheffler. One, no one has repeated at the Masters in more than 2 decades, and only 3 times in like 60 years. And that's been Nicklaus, Woods, and Faldo. So we're talking about generational talents. Do we think Scotty Scheffler is there? He might be. He might be a generational talent who wins 6, 7, 8 majors, something like that. The other one that even blows my mind more than the first one is that of the last 16 Masters winners, the following year, only one finished in the top 10 even. And that 15 of them couldn't even get into the top 10 the next year. It seems improbable that that'll be Scotty Scheffler. But the one was Jordan Spieth, 2015, he won, and then he lost to Danny Willett in 2016. That said, briefly about the other two, Jon Rahm, he seems to be the odd man out. I think that's a mistake. He's still Jon Rahm. He's got a lot of top 10s, top 5s at this tournament. Don't sleep on him. But my pick of them all is Rory McIlroy. He's been playing very well this year, does not have a win. He's there almost every year at the Masters, despite everything that goes wrong. 7 top 10s the last 10 years. He's recently changed the shaft on his driver. He's changed his putter, and that might be the key thing. He also has an edge in this weather where you're just going to have to hit the ball farther and farther in the cold weather. So I don't know what we'll talk about next year if Rory McIlroy has finally completed the career Grand Slam, but I'm sure we'll find something.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rory is one of the very few people that has made me feel like I'm aging, because I feel like I have watched him age on the greens. Remember how young he was, and we're watching him at Pebble Beach, and I'm like, look at this kid. And now flash forward to here. But Len, again, you can follow at Len Hochberg. You're looking at tomorrow this weekend being a little bit different with the 13th hole and a change to the greens. Do you think that will have any impact? Has there been enough practice time for these players to go out there? Or do you think it's just going to be no different for these studs?
Well, I think the players have been talking about in the practice rounds. It's been a prominent topic. in the week up to now. And yeah, it used to be the easiest or one of the easiest holes on the golf course. And now the golfers are saying it really will take 2 incredible shots to get on the green in 2. We saw an indication of this last year when the 15th, the 13 and 15 are the 2 eagle par 5s on the back 9 where we could see such incredible swings. Well, last year they lengthened 15 and there was 0 eagles on 15 last year. So boom, right away, that changed things there. And, par 5 scoring normally is so prominent in trying to figure out who's going to win and who's going to do well. Well, par 5 scoring is becoming less impactful. I expect very few eagles, if any, on 13. It's just going to be hard to get there in 2. The risk is so great with the water right in front there. And now with the weather, who knows everything plays even a little bit longer. So huge impact with the change to 13. And that's just what Augusta National wanted.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think, the change happens. And then this is a course said a little bit earlier. You really need to be able to use everything in your arsenal to play very well here. And that's why, you look at some of these more creative players, guys like Max Homa that don't have a good course history here, right? But are having, playing the best in their career that they have. Are there guys like a Homa, one of these names that isn't necessarily getting talked about enough? Who is your guy that everyone is maybe sleeping on a little bit?
Homa's an interesting guy because you're right. He's been an incredible player this year, but he's done almost nothing in the majors. He's never had a top 10. He hasn't played in that many, but he's sort of really, this is a pivotal moment for him to face plant again in a major when he's playing so well everywhere else. It's almost like a player or a team that has a great regular season and then just, bombs out in the playoffs. So really pivotal for him, I think. There are some lesser guys. One guy who's really kind of sneaky under the radar, Sungjae Im. He's like 45-1. He's 8,100 on DraftKings. He's had a couple of good Masters. He was second in 2020. Okay, we want to look at 2020. That's the November Masters. Let's throw that out. It's sort of an outlier. But then he was 8th last year. And this year, 3 top 6s in tough tournaments, including the Players. So he's one guy I'm really looking at. Sam Burns can be great like he was at the match play, and he could be horrible as well. That's probably the big thing that's keeping him from really cementing himself in the top 10 or even the top 5 is that his inconsistency. But those 2 guys, they're not getting a lot of chatter this week. The big 3 are. And, Tony Finau seems to have a lot of chatter this week. I think you're upset about that or something. I think I saw that. Sorry if I just added more to Tony Finau here. But
you know her so well. You know her so well.
My Twitter is something that you can't avoid my Twitter when we get there. And Finau is someone, I love Finau so much. And I think that he is one of the best golfers in the world. And at some point he is going to separate himself. I think he will enter that upper echelon and we're going to get there. Is it going to be this weekend? I'm not entirely sure. And I don't know that I feel super confident about that, but I do. He's a darling because he's so likable. And I think people really hang on to how wholesome he is outside of his great golf play.
Just so wholesome for sure.
Yeah.
Right. He came across probably better than anyone in the Netflix series.
Yes.
Full swing, I think. Yeah. And a lot of people, I just anecdotally on golf Twitter just said, I like him now. I'm a Tony Finau fan now. Yes. He's been okay this year. Putting much better. That's always been his problem, but he's actually a much better putter. He's had a lot of top 25s, but has not had top 10s. There's not much difference between those 2, 25 and a top 10, but there is between a top 25 and a win. And he's just missing a little bit something this year.
Len Hochberg, I got a 2-part question for you. It is my last one. The first part of the 2-part question is, where will you be watching the Masters? The second part is, where can all of our listeners find all of your work?
Well, I'll be, I had a family day today, not to get too sidetracked, but I went with my wife and my son, and we went to a museum today. He's on spring break because I'm sort of going to abandon them for the next 4 days. And I'll probably be home watching for 3 days. And then Sunday, there's a group of friends. We always get together on Sunday to watch the final round, and we rotate each other's houses. And I'm not hosting this year. I think I hosted last year, so I'll be watching at a friend's house this year. And I was half joking with him. I said, we may have to come back Monday to your house for the finish. Not sure how well received. Probably got to go to work or something, but just let us.
But you'll be there. But you'll be there.
Yeah, we'll clean up. We'll do a good job. But thank you. And for the second part, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, my work is on RotoWire. I write the DraftKings column every week. I have a weekly recap. I'm on Sirius XM radio on the RotoWire show every Wednesday, and also on the DraftKings show, The Sweat, on Wednesday mornings as well. So I was a busy Wednesday today for me. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Len is legendary. So if you follow
So
golf,
legendary.
you want to be following Len and following his work, because it's some awesome stuff.
We appreciate you so much. Enjoy the Masters. We'll be thinking about you if it does have a rain delay Monday. Where will you be? But enjoy it. And Steph, we are going to go right here to reminding everybody you can watch the Masters and join us for a Bettor Cast tomorrow morning starting at 10:15 Eastern Time. Play the only live sports question and answer game where you can watch the Masters, chat with golf fans, and predict what will happen and compete to win an authentic Masters mini gnome. Only on Bettor Sports Network app. Moose and Keith will be found on bettorsports.com and the Bettor Sports Network YouTube page, plus Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. And don't forget, everyone, if you downloaded the Bettor Sports Network app, you need to refresh that app. There's some great new updates. It's always one of those things. We get comfy with our apps. We forget. They all need a little bit of a refresh. We need a refresh. So we're going to get to a quick break. You're listening to Steph Smalls and Lisa Ann right here on Bettor Sports Live on the Bettor Sports Network.
Bettor Sports Network. Collectible moments.
Everybody up here at U.S. Cellular. Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The 2-1 to Bartlett. Swing shot to short. Ramirez has it, throws. Bartlett picks the perfect game. His second no-hitter. People going crazy here at U.S. Cellular. He's mobbed by his teammates. A perfecto.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right out, 1 second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the inbounding pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up at him. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left.
Out of the I formation on first down. Peterson to carry, looking for running room on the right side, has it to the 25, across the 30, across the 35, and out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Adrian Peterson has just gone over 2,000 yards for the season, the 7th man in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark.
Well, a thundering ovation for number 66, Mario Lemieux.
Just the emotion I'm sure Mario is feeling in this place. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, and it's so great to have Mario back.
Yager turns around. Over to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, his first goal in his comeback here tonight at the Mellon Arena. And the Penguins lead 3-0, and he is smiling like a butcher's dog. Mario Lemieux.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. The Bears have scored, but the Bands are out on the field.
Pearson moves in front of the STP Dodge. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the bank, and they're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? Pearson is still running. The winner is car number 21. An amazing finish. Richard Petty's car demolished in the front end, as well as car number 21. An unbelievable finish, a terrible crash. David Pearson has won the Daytona 500. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer! Pitched by Downing, swinging, there's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
The most valuable player is Magic Johnson.
42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship 123-107 over Philadelphia.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Bettor Sports Network.
And we are back right here, Lisa Ann and Steph Smalls. We've got 20 minutes left in this show right here at Bettor Sports Live. Another break, another block did happen for me. People don't realize how Twitter is working now. So they unfollow somebody, but somehow your tweets are still being seen. So this guy was like complaining, I unfollowed you and I'm still seeing your tweets. So I thought I would do him a solid and just block him. So now he can't see my tweets.
Yes, I do that one too. Like, why are you all over my timeline? I get all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Solve the problem yourself. If you won't, I'll do it for you.
Also, like, I don't know how the new algo works, but it is very different. Let's face it. Twitter is the cesspool that is spinning down. We're all thinking it's going to be the next MySpace. Eventually, it's just going to be gone. Elon Musk would be smart to just file bankruptcy on this bad investment that he has. You can't let half or more than half of your employees go and think you're going to have the same product. It just doesn't work that way.
It's not the way it rolls. Not at all. Just
not the way it rolls. It's not going to happen. Let's recap some of these scores in the NBA. And also, I loved Len. Thanks for bringing on Len.
Isn't he the best? Oh my gosh. Yes.
I love that he did good by his family today to make sure that he could have his own time. That's great planning. It's a smart man right there.
A lot of men can definitely learn from that. Like, it's not that, go to brunch on Saturday, not on NFL Sunday. You can just think ahead a little bit. Let's plan.
Think ahead. Look, I do. A lot of people will hit me up, a lot of radio stations on Valentine's Day and like, hey, will you give relationship advice? And I give the same advice every year. Like, do some of your wife's chores. Handle some things for your girlfriend that she doesn't expect you to handle. You'll have a great Valentine's Day. It's that simple. Do the laundry, put your stuff away. Don't be messy, all of those things. But your Brooklyn Nets put the lay down smack down on the Pistons, 123-108. That game is filed. The New York Knickerbockers 138 over the Pacers 129. We still got some games in play right here. The Wizards are doing wizard things. So the Hawks over the Wizards 121-102. The Celtics over the Raptors. Raptors putting up a bit of a fight, 92-86. The Bucks over the Bulls 96-86, and they're in the fourth quarter. This Grizz Pelicans game has turned into nothing again because the Grizz are over them 82-74. And those Sacramento Kings, this game is at halftime 71-60 over the sad Dallas Mavericks who have studs out there. Kings are surprising all of us. What surprised you the most about your first experience for the 3 hours here on Bettor Sports Live? Was it the robust chat? The fact that Andrew came in and surprised us? The fact that we actually talked a little baseball?
The fact that I was able to do a 3-hour show with you that we've been like totally hoping for and waiting for is fantastic. The chat is awesome. Saw so many people that popped in here that I know from Twitter, from all over the place, getting the guests to come on, being able to, yes, I even talked a little baseball. I might be getting there. I'm warming up to the baseball.
Warming up. And look, all we got to do is plan our girls trip and be in the same room with Allie, because Allie can make anyone love baseball. Like that is just Allie McCann. And, I love, you see her clips where she's like doing a golf thing or she's doing a baseball thing. And I just adore her so much. So I was like, yay for Allie. She's going to get us in the game. We'll all go to a Yankees game together, maybe a Mets game. We'll do whatever. We can get her. This is her busy season right now with golf and baseball, but we got to drag her out for the girls' trip.
We have to do it. We also have to get ourselves to Barclays at some point. We'll have to do some off-screen planning because we do need a good trip.
We do need a good trip. I've got the Murphy bed right here in my office that is just waiting to flip down for you to stay, and it will be fantastic. But for all of our everyone here in the chat, we know that the weekend is going to be nothing but Masters conversation, though we may see some more NFL news that surprises us because it's fluttering in while we're just trying to focus on the Masters.
We're trying. And we also, do you feel that we're in a standstill too? It's like, I feel like we're at this point in the NFL offseason where it's like, we're right before the draft. probably week before we start getting a little bit more chaos coming in. Then it gets really chaotic. We're at that point where, maybe more so this season or this off season than we have in the past. Like, what is going on with some of these, former MVP, 2 former MVPs right now in the league? We don't know where they're playing next year. Crazy.
That is it's crazy. Are you of the opinion that if Lamar Jackson had an agent, he'd have a better situation hammered down by now?
I don't know, because you look at all these guys that have been able to produce, these incredible contracts. Some of them are on more than one without an agent. I think that it is nice to have, I stand by, I think you should at least give it to a cousin, an uncle, a mom, whoever it is. It's nice to have someone there with you doing it independently. You have the NFLPA that's probably playing a bigger piece to this than we realize. Maybe, but also get your bag. I'm going to be honest. These guys, nothing is guaranteed. You could get injured. They are not of the life during college where they were openly getting paid. Like, make your money. Like, I'm all for that.
And I kind of believe, look, the agents just have relationships, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's really like, it's not about the money that you're going to give to an agent. It's about the fact that you look at agents like Rosenhaus put billions of dollars of deals together. This is what they do. They know how to have these conversations. They know how to not allow you to be pushed around. And they also know how to kind of teach you to create the proper narrative, right? I love that players are now sharing their true thoughts on social media. There is nothing better than knowing, but at the same time, I think it can be really detrimental to put things out there like Odell talking about money, right? Those things are things that an agent would be able to say to you like, hey, it's better to just do this. But from Lamar, I just think he feels, a little unloved, which I could understand. I think he feels putting himself up against Deshaun, where, Deshaun Watson, we saw everything that went down. And then here's this guy who's just been so great to the community. Everybody truly loves him and he can't get this done. I think this is where an agent could come in. I understand that he does not believe that for whatever reason, but I always trust people that are smarter than me. And I trust in the fact that somebody does something more often than I do, that I want to go to somebody that's been doing this repetitively rather than me try to take a chance on it on my own.
Yeah, 100%. And I think part of it too is like, what would this look like if we didn't have the Deshaun Watson contract? They really did a number on like just these conversations as a whole. And that next QB contract that falls is also going to set the precedent for the next several years.
Of course.
We're seeing these guys make more and more, and I think it's rightfully so. I think what the league has also kind of, for some reason, fallen off, like good QB play is not something that comes around apparently as often as we think, because you look at the QB play last year, horrible. It's just not good. People wonder why Daniel Jones, for instance, got paid the way he did. They front loaded that contract very much on purpose. I think that contract actually says less about Daniel Jones than people think. But yeah, guys get paid that much because guess what? They want a player that's on the field. So for Lamar, right? You see Deshaun Watson get guaranteed money the way he did.
A record-breaking contract in the NFL in a situation like this is just outlandish. And I think the only way to overcorrect it is by doing the right thing by somebody like Lamar. But when you mentioned the Daniel Jones situation, I think the Giants were smart in the sense that they looked at the landscape.
Yeah.
Who's out there? This isn't a rich draft class in quarterbacks. There's about 4 that everybody that are truly sought after. And so I think they were like, okay, it's amazing how players land with timing. I'm reading a book right now, a Malcolm Gladwell book about timing, and talking about how, and a lot of it covers sports, and how it's a matter of like, you could have been the best running back graduating from the best school, but you're competing in a really rich running back draft class. And if you would have just stayed in college for one more year and been able to have the foresight to look into next draft class is so limited, you could almost double your money. Daniel Jones was a product of his environment when it came to the numbers game, of what they were willing to do. And he's loved by the Giants. He loves being working with Daboll and Daniel Jones, your Giants have had to deal with coaching changes and so many things for young players that it's only fair to let it sit where it's at right now and not have any more adjustments and watch these players flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a piece of it. I think I tweeted out probably whether it was this week or last week, like it's very possible. I think about Trey Lance actually is like one of the first names that comes to mind. It's very possible that a very talented player lands in a shit situation, gets dealt the wrong cards, and they don't amount to anything. And unfortunately, that's just, that's where we start talking about NIL money and all this other stuff and why college players are getting paid and what that looks like and why they should get that money. And, it's very possible that you get put into a situation that is just, unfortunately, doesn't work out. We saw guys like Carson Wentz. He was on an MVP season, gets hurt. Nothing has looked the same. Not one thing. Eli Manning used to get booed. He would get booed saying, we want a DNA test. We want this. We want that. Where's Peyton? This isn't a Manning brother. And then went on to win 2 Super Bowls. Like there is a piece of this where people, everyone wants the next Patrick Mahomes. Everyone wants the Joe Burrow. You guys want more than sometimes these guys can give you. And I think, Tom Brady for a while had that success because of the fact that he was taking a little bit of a pay cut because he had this supermodel wife and he was able to stack around him because he wasn't asking for as much.
And that makes a huge difference in the untold stories that nobody really thinks about. And I think about that with Tom Brady. I also think about some of the moves the Kansas City Chiefs has done with money because these players want to stay together. Sure, some pieces. And look, Tyreek Hill leaving the Chiefs, everyone thought was writing them off and writing off Mahomes' production. It didn't change it one bit, really, if you think about, but Tyreek went on to move on. And it's important for everybody to have those patience. I feel really bad for Jordan Love because when he was drafted, he could have been already building himself up on another team. It's great to sit behind a quarterback that's willing to work with you. Mahomes sat behind a quarterback. We've seen some of the best quarterbacks sit behind, but how long is too long to sit where the number of your age starts to change your style of play?
Yeah. And again, like this is how fast moving like this league is. I keep seeing a lot of these mock drafts with the Titans drafting another quarterback, moving up, drafting a quarterback. And there's no patience anymore in the league. A team will move on from you so damn fast, where we used to see some of the best quarterbacks ever, they sat. Aaron Rodgers sat. Like these guys sat and they developed and they were able to wait until the team was ready, get the experience from the vet, and then go on. We don't see as much patience anymore. People are thrown at this. And that's where we see guys like Zach Wilson, who I don't feel like was a very strong recruit. People felt very differently, but he walked into a disaster. So it's really hard to be like, oh, can we 100% say that he was not supposed, like, couldn't have amounted to anything? Mac Jones is also kind of getting drawn a very short stick too. Like you don't have as many weapons for him. Like I think that stuff, like situation does matter and the patience matters. And there is you can be on the bench a little bit too long and unfortunately
get cold. Yeah. And like Zach Wilson's a great example. I believe if Zach Wilson was the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans and he made that little verbal faux pas, right, at the presser, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But when you are in the New York media, look at how big of a deal the New York media made of Odell when he was a young player, right? You are under this microscope. Zach Wilson, less than 22 years old. The kid's a kid. I don't think he meant to speak ill of his teammates when he answered that question. We also have to remember that these reporters are often baiting, right? They are baiting these players. And this poor kid got written off. And like, there were so many weird stories going on. But like, when you get to the underbelly of it, you talk about people with the organization, they're like, oh, he was working really hard. He's never been late. But then you hear these reports, oh, he was late for practice. I don't think this kid was just like screwing up. But I think we let that narrative control it. And now, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is one that's really going to want to be like, I'm a counselor and I'm going to help you. So what's Zach Wilson going to do now? I think it's great that Mike White got a new deal because you know what? He gets out of that situation before it makes him look bad. And nobody wants to be in a locker room where you're pinning two players up against each other, because what we saw last year from San Francisco, they need to lean on all three of their quarterbacks. And when you all turned your back on Zach Wilson over his mistake and didn't allow him to be part of the conversation, you didn't allow yourself to have a backup quarterback.
No, you didn't. And I think that you put yourself in such a bad spot. And the pinning against each other is so funny. And poor Zach Wilson, I will say, the New York market is unfortunately brutal. Horrible spot for him to come in. Just not a great situation. You have the mom stuff come in. You have all of this come in. You have pulling archives, which I'll be the first to say. I did a TikTok in his archive that's like, I'm going to give the vet that comes in hell. He wasn't expecting that to be Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Like, he didn't, that's not the vet he wanted. You're not going to have stories turn out like Geno Smith. A Geno Smith story is unheard of. Like, that's not the way that the NFL is moving these days. I think, again, you know, kind of, you look at the Seahawks again, I think let's pay a little respect on the fact that they know what the hell they're doing.
Yep.
And that just doesn't come around all the time.
It doesn't. And it's just the way the narrative is so crazy in different markets, and the way it's so silent in others really shows you an incredible amount of pressure that these young players are up against. And they are just young people. And we all said dumb shit when we were young. Like, I imagine the pressure, you're just finishing a game. You didn't play well. You're embarrassed. I mean, you get a little bit of training in college, but it's not the same. And I am so pro the NIL deals, because the amount of players that will never make it to the pro, especially when it comes to women's sports, the ability that they have to build a brand for themselves, to make money, to set their futures up, and to be able to create their business as an influencer, as a brand, is just so next level. The colleges have been making way too much money, and the students were getting nothing for it for so many years that when it happened, I was like, this is the best thing ever. But it's a bummer for players that were 5-10 years ago who maybe got in a little bit of trouble because there was a side deal. Because let's face it, all of these schools were doing side deals to lock in players for
100%.
years.
100%. And now there's these transparency. And then you look at some of these guys whose careers were cut so short, the Todd Gurley's and all these guys that,
Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, where's he gonna end up?
All these guys, imagine if they were able to, at least, you sacrifice a lot of your life to be an athlete in college. Like, I remember having that opportunity and being like, not going to happen, because I also am like, I need my degree and I need to focus on that. And that's what my dad wanted me to do. And I was like, great idea. Nothing is going to come of this. So I need to make sure all they're doing is making sure that their lives are set. And I think that's very fair.
And they deserve to be making the money. There's nobody on TikTok making millions of dollars. These people are selling tickets to seats. We're watching them on television. We're using their names in sports betting. We're putting them in a fantasy roster. Our producer at Heavy T on Air, we want to thank you for everything tonight. But by the way, with the Bucks win tonight, they officially clinched the number 1 seed, which is absolutely fantastic and scary for the Celtics. But I think the Celtics are they remember exactly what it tastes like to be in the spot they were in last season. I think they go hard for the rest of the series.
I love it. I can't get behind that Boston team. You know that, but I am, excited for them. Hopefully they can.
Steph, everyone can follow you at Stephie Smalls on all social. And I know that you won't have a camera on Friday at the Masters. I'm so excited that you're getting to go. And I know that you'll give us a little before and after on all platforms, and especially a very unique take on your TikTok.
Oh, yes, of course. I will figure something out. I will sneak in a sandwich. I'll sneak out a sandwich.
That's what we need.
I can't bring my phone in. I'm getting a sandwich out. So we'll, give or take here. We'll see. It'll be good for me to get off social media, but I'm going to have all the reviews to come out right after that.
It's one of the things I love most about the Masters is the fact that everybody is living in the moment and actually watching with their own eyes and just enjoying it and soaking it in. You never soak in something fully when you're up and down and up and down. I want to thank Brad Thomas for joining us today at 7:30. You can follow at Mr. Brad Thomas and Len Hochberg. Just a delight at Len Hochberg, our producer, better boss in the room. Everybody who was here with us in the chat, and Steph, this This has to happen more often, right?
It does. Yes, this is a blast. It's so exciting. Like I feel
So
like
I got
a
a
little
quick
bit of
would
déjà
you
vu.
rather for you.
Okay, let's
Would
do
you
it.
rather play a round of golf and win versus Daniel Jones or your Giants make it to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, we got to go back to the Super Bowl because I'd love to see Daniel Jones get to the Super Bowl. It's a little bit of a double win for me there.
Last one here. Would you rather cut down the net at the NBA Finals or coach your Giants in their Super Bowl game?
Oh, man. I don't think they want me coaching, although I think I could do a better job than Joe Judge. I will cut the net.
You can cut the net. You can keep the trinket. It'll be back there with your biggie stuff right there. Thank you all right here for being in the room. Don't forget to share all the social media at Bettor Network. You can also share the links to these shows. We'll be looking forward to seeing you. We'll be looking forward to seeing everything Steph does when she's in Augusta. Steph, I absolutely love you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Everybody, thank you to all of you. Tyler, you are awesome. We are signing out. Don't forget about the Bettor Cast tomorrow while you're watching the Masters. It's going to be a ton of fun on the app. Lisa Ann and Steph Smalls right here signing off on Bettor Sports Live, the Bettor Sports Network.